Lex's good. She got a whole day planned for her. She getting nails done. She got a whole day planned for her. First time being this early to the stream. I appreciate you being here, bruh. What's the deal? How you doing, Abby? What's the deal, user? Uncle is crazy. Please keep tapping the screen. I'm finna accept guests in a second. Abby, how are you doing though? Let me know. I'm great. I'm trying to read more too. Tight. I gotta come on your panel and talk to you one day. For sure, bro. For sure. I ain't got no problem with that. Hey man, I pray that everybody's doing good. Ultimatum, I pray that you doing good as well. We finna get started. Hey, how my day going? My day is going pretty well. Pretty well. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get some water though. I'm thirsty. And I'll let you guys start. I'm supposed to look at him. He's gonna tell me look. Don't you listen to my conversaions, okay? If it's not, don't rely on mine. Hope my dreams don't ever die. 8 viewers. 8 viewers, we in. Come to your live one day. Let me follow you. I don't know if I follow you or not. Usually when I do get off a live though, I don't really be on TikTok like that. I'm not gonna hold you. I don't normally go on other people's panels. Sometimes, like occasionally I will, but it just depends. What's up?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm Christian, but like I have a few questions. One thing, like I'm not too well educated on this, and I struggle to understand like the concept of the Holy Trinity and the fact that like Jesus has two natures, 100% divinity and 100% humanity. Do these natures not contradict?
So it depends as to what you mean by contradict. Like the human nature has like it's composed, for example, right? And the divine nature is not. So in that sense, do you say that they have attributes that are opposed to one another? Yeah.
Yeah, so a human essentially is not all knowing. He is what's it called? He can be hurt, right? But God and the nature of divinity, all that it contradicts this, no? Like, and it's also stated like Jesus didn't know the hour or something. And I'm just curious as to how that works. Like, how can he be God if he's not all knowing and stuff like that?
Yeah, no. So we wouldn't say that it's an essential property of humanity to like no human is able to know everything. So we would hold that Jesus, even though he had the human nature, still knew everything. Even if that knowledge was pertaining to the divine nature, right? He still has that divine nature, that divine mind. Now those two, yeah, exactly, Crimson. But those two natures, right? They like we could say things or we could predicate things that are proper to the specific nature that we're talking about. So we could say that that Christ is passable, or he can experience passions. He could be hurt, pretty much, in virtue of his human nature, but not in virtue of his divine nature. So it's no problem with him having two natures, and we're saying things proper to a specific nature, even though those natures have different properties.
Yeah, so the fact that those natures have two different properties, if he's essentially 100% of both, how come he can be passable, but that only, that's just his human nature? If he's fully both, that's like being a square and a circle at the same time. It's two properties that contradict each other entirely.
No, so when you're trying to impose this contradiction, you would say that they go against each other at the same time in the same sense, right? So if we were to say that the divine nature was both passable and not passable, then yeah, that would be a problem. But that's not what the Christians claim. So we're saying that God took on humanity. So all that which is necessary to be a human, which means that he has a physical body and soul, right? All that which is necessary to be a human, he actually took on. So human body, mind, soul, he has that. Now he still has the divine nature. So these are two really distinct natures that Christ has. Now you can say things about Christ proper to his divine nature, and you can say things about Christ proper to his human nature.
Yeah, so do these natures fuse, like negate each other, or
They don't
are they just
fuse.
like coexisting within this person?
Yeah, they don't fuse. They both they get their subsistence, or the human nature gets the subsistence from the divine person.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess that was my mistake. So, I mean, yeah, if they fused or negated each other, yeah, it would be a contradiction.
Yeah, they
So,
don't
like,
fuse.
okay, so he's not both passable and not passable?
Yeah, but no, so you can say that Christ is both passable and not passable, but he's passable insofar as the human nature, and he's impassable insofar as his divine nature. So the only way it would be a contradiction is if you're saying something about a thing in the same sense or in the same respect. So if you're saying that his divine nature is both passable and not passable, then yeah, that's an actual contradiction. But if you're saying, oh, pertaining to his human nature, he's passable, and then in another respect, because pertaining to his divine nature, he's impassable, then there's no problem there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the only question I had. I appreciate your answer, though. Makes sense to me.
Okay, cool. God bless, man.
Yeah, God bless.
What's the deal, answers?
What's going on, man?
Not much.
Just having a good day. I'm blessed, man. Like,
Amen.
you don't usually come on this time of day.
Yeah, no, my fiance told me to go live. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
guess you got to do what you need to do, man.
I'm Protestant right now, kid, too. What's up, Miles?
Hey man, how are you? I'm good.
Amen. What's up?
So personally, I'm not a Christian, but I've done a fair bit of research on it. Personally, I think there are just a few too many contradictions in logical and faith-based. I think one of them, you already discussed it, but another one might be like, the divinity paradox. How can something be like the immovable object, but also the unstoppable force at the same time, type of thing?
Nah, I actually haven't heard of that, no.
Oh, it's like, so can God make a rock that he can't lift? If he can make it, that
No,
means he
we just
can't
say
lift that
no.
rock.
It's just a contradiction. That's not a thing.
No, it's like a thought concept of how something be all powerful?
Yeah,
Because
like you're just proposing, can God do contradictions? And we'd say no.
okay. Okay, a better way to phrase this might be, is God all powerful?
Yeah, but what do you know what all powerful means?
I might have a different definition. Can you explain what you perceive it as?
Yeah, when we say that God is all powerful, it means that like he can actualize like all potentials, or like he can do things that are logically possible.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense, but how does that make sense for miracles? Are miracles not things that are outside the logical realm?
No,
Like making a blind man see again?
no. So a blind man seeing is logically possible, just like a pig flying is logically possible. So when you're talking about possibility, you're gonna have to figure out as to what modality you're speaking about. So there's different modalities. So for example, a pig flying is what's called nomologically impossible, or like naturally impossible according to the natural laws.
Probably. Right.
Yeah, it's nomologically impossible, but there's no problem with God breaking nomological laws, right? Physically impossible things, there's no problem with that. Now, logically impossible things means that it entails some type of contradiction Same with nomological, but it's just going to be strictly to the physical. Now, in logical laws, you're going to say like your question pretty much, or can God create a squared circle or a married bachelor? No, those are contradictions. Those are things that just can't exist regardless. So those things are what we're saying, that God has all power to do what's logically possible. Contradictions aren't a
That
thing.
makes
They don't
sense.
exist. But
But
nomological laws can be broken.
but wouldn't bringing the dead back to life fall outside of that, because that is like a logically impossible thing? Death is the absence of life, and you cannot have death and life. And like once you're, yeah, like it's not a logically possible thing, is it not?
No, dead people come back to life all the time. It's people
Well,
who have coded out and then been resuscitated and life be breathed back into them. It's not a logical impossibility.
yeah, but like the those people are usually like a couple hours dead, like at most.
I still, either way, death is still death, and according to your definition, it's the absence of life, and you're saying that you can't be both alive and dead. So if that person is dead for whatever amount of time, technically, by your definition, it should be impossible for them to come back to life.
Oh, okay. So like let's say my arm's gone. Like there is no universe where that's like it could come back. There's no way in within nature's laws. But does that mean he can like just rewrite nature so you would be able to have your arm back?
Yeah, so in regards to nomological, so that's under like a nomological modality, right?
Mhm.
So you're talking about the physical laws or the laws of nature. God can override those things to bring about some greater end.
Okay. Okay. So like is there any evidence to like the reason I don't think that's logically possible is I don't see any reason why that could exist? Or is that just something that, you accept this as a fact because it's backed up by other verifiable facts?
Well, I mean both. So in regards to like God being able to actualize all true potentials, right? When you run an argument for, or like one of my favorite arguments for the existence of God is going to show that he's able to actualize all true potentials. So logical contradictions aren't true potentials, they aren't things. So
Yeah.
yeah, we wouldn't say that God can do contradictions, but things like, I don't know, making somebody's eyes come back is not a logical impossibility. So he will fall under that realm in which God is able to actualize and God is able to do. So you could like logically deduce that God is able to do miracles like that, especially like the physical things.
Well, I guess that would make sense if you believed in the power of miracles. I guess that would make logical sense, yeah.
Not just in the power of mirror. I'm saying that if we can logically deduce that God exists and he's the one who actualizes
Yeah.
all true potentials, then him doing miracles wouldn't be something outside of his nature or something that he's
Oh
not
yeah, I
able to do.
totally agree. Like if you could logic, but that's like a thing you would have to logically deduce it, which
I'm
is
saying that we
another
can.
question completely. Yeah, like, but
No,
I
I'm
mean,
saying
you're
that
totally
I'm
right.
saying that we can logic, like there's good arguments to go to show this.
Um, I think yeah, I would. That's awesome to talk about it. Slightly different thing: the existence of heaven, and on a slightly more emotional topic. Do you actually think in the Bible's description of heaven, is there a way heaven could actually be good? I don't think it actually sounds like a great experience.
Why not?
Well, have I think it's like the three concepts of heaven. Either you're pretty much just a incorporeal floating existence and you're just permanently in bliss, or you're within the choir and you have a whole sense of fulfillment, or you are with God and you fulfill tasks for eternity. None of those sound pretty good, do they?
Yeah, they
Or have
do.
I got the picture of heaven wrong?
No, so for Christians, God would be that which is like by nature good. So you're participating in that which is by nature good. So if you're
Hmm.
participating in that which is good just by nature, then yeah, that's going to be good. Now, if you don't like goodness, or you don't like what goodness sounds like, or you don't like what it sounds like to participate in said goodness, that's on you. That doesn't affect whether or not the nature of goodness is actually good.
But my question would be not like, is it good, but would an eternity of only goodness actually be good? You
Yes.
know, but like, the way I think about it is,
Oh, hold on. If an et- if it's an eternity of goodness, how is it bad?
well, that's what I'm trying to say is, like, I feel like you cannot truly experience. It's like, um, you can't truly experience the greatness of not feeling hunger unless you've been hungry at some point. I'm not saying you have to starve to death to know it's nice to eat, but like, I don't think you end up getting the true fulfillment out of it. Also, like, is one of life's greatest purposes to learn from your mistakes. What it just A life without any negatives sounds like it's devoid of purpose. What's the purpose of even doing anything if there's nothing to work away from, if you're never going to be hungry, if you're never going to need to know anything?
Yeah, so it would be like say for instance, you start off, your parents are poor, right? So you know what poverty feels like. And now
Mm.
you do things to align yourself with a particular purpose that's going to get you a particular job that's going to help you make a particular amount of money so that you never have to live in poverty again, right? When you reach
Yeah.
that status, it's not like, ooh, I want to go back and feel what poverty is like. No, you felt what the privation of riches feels like. So now that you've obtained riches, right, you no longer want to go back to the place in which you once were. So in this life, we are feeling the consequences of our privation of goodness, right? Which is what we would
Yeah.
call evil, right?
Yeah.
We go through these things, like consequences of our actions, the consequences of other people's actions, whatever the case may be. And now in the middle of this, God gives us grace to align ourselves with him. So when we align ourselves with him, that's like us aligning our purpose to establish the riches in some weird shape or form, right? So
Oh, yeah, I
now,
get you.
yeah, so now when we've come into his goodness, we no longer want to feel what privation is like. Just like if I have hunger pains and then I eat, I don't want to feel those hunger pains again.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
so this experience that
I
we're
get you.
living through in life, right? We have the time and we feel what these privations feel like, and hopefully you can use these things to align yourself with that which is good, and through God's grace you would be united unto him.
Yeah. I think the way I look at it is not necessarily you want to go back to it, but like, say you're in poverty and you become wealthy and you're not in poverty anymore, you still have goals that you want to work towards. Like, just because you've got money now doesn't mean you stop doing something. So in essence, you're actually without something. You
Yeah.
still have desires,
Hmm.
which is a negative experience in and of itself. Like, you still have things you
No,
don't
no.
have.
Desires is not a negative experience in itself. Now with God, this is the thing, is that when you align your will with God, when you die in Christianity, your will is like fixed. So if you desired God and you aligned your will with him, you'll keep going in that direction. Now the thing is, that means that you desire goodness, right? And through grace, God will unite you to his goodness. But God's goodness is infinite. So it's like trying to reach a goal, but there's no limit unto him. So you're continuing desiring goodness, going further into his goodness and into his grace, because that's what you desire, never reaching an end because his goodness is infinite.
So, like, you're just in a constant state of bliss that forever gets better. Like, you're in a constant state of goodness that forever gets better.
I mean, for you, that's kind of like what you would experience here.
But like, does that not like sound devoid of any purpose? Like, what is your purpose then? Just to exist as something with bliss? There is no.
It's
Is it
not,
really
so
an
it's not,
afterlife then, or
so
is
it's
it
not
just
for
you?
the, it's not for the feeling, it's for the virtue. So when we're saying goodness, we're not saying that, ooh, this, this tickles me or this smells good. That's not what we're talking about in regards to goodness, but it's the virtue of that which is good, right? It's willing the good for. It's living in love, not just the feeling or the sensation, but the actual virtue of that. So for those, this is why you can't like believe in God just to try to escape hell for real. Now, there's some people who would be in heaven for that purpose, according to like Saint Maximus, but most people, like a real child of God, does it for the virtue of it, not for the reward of a thing. So
Oh, so is it kind of like instead of being married just so you can, have the feeling of love of your wife, it's being married so you can have the experience of marriage? Is that kind of like you're
not
not
just
doing
the
it for
not just
the.
the experience, not just the experience of marriage, but like say for instance, if you were getting married for the willful sacrifice and servitude of your significant other, right? For the person that's going to make you, right? And now for me, like I'm a Christian, me getting married is like, oh, you are to be as Christ is to your wife. So that means like
Mm.
I have to be as loving as Christ. So regardless of what my wife does, I still need to show her love regardless, because Christ showed his love for the church that he died for the church,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
though the church was
Did
awful.
he die for the church, or did he die for mankind, all those who sinned against him and loved him,
That's
regardless
all.
of their faith?
That's all of mankind. Now the church is going to be like, when you say the church, is going to be those who align themselves with Christ or join themselves unto Christ, right? So those are going to be the people who are able to partake in the benefits of his body and his blood and his grace. That's going to be the church. But what I mean in regards to, that's what I mean in regards to his church. All of humanity is supposed to be his church, which is why it says that God desires none to go to hell, right? So
Okay.
all of humanity is supposed to be his church, but whether or not you want to be a part of that is going to be up to you.
I think the real question for me is, would there be any purpose in the afterlife? Like, is there really any truthful goal other than to expand the will of God?
Well, if I don't know what else you would really desire. So the will of God is going to be to will the good for all that which exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you align your will with him, then you're willing the good for all that which exists. So you're expanding that will. So now in Christianity, there's going to be a new heaven and new earth, and there's going to be people who's going to be put rulers, and you're spreading God's goodness to the ends of all that which exists. Now, if you've aligned your will with God, that's all that you would desire. That's all that you would want. You no longer have selfish desires, but you have selfless desires. You have loving desires.
Oh, I see. So you work in eternity for the will of someone other than yourself. Like but you find purpose in that.
Yeah. The same way that in marriage,
Yeah.
though, I find purpose and love in working for someone
Yeah,
other than
yeah.
myself, or in childbearing, right? Like you find purpose in
Yeah,
willing
yeah.
something good for something other than yourself.
Yeah. I I understand that, and I can understand the appeal. Personally, I feel I'm a little bit more selfish than that. I feel
Yeah.
personally I would love to, have if I was going to have eternity, I would love to be able to better myself,
Yeah.
to grow as an individual that can use that uniqueness as an individual to contribute to the greatness, not just of all.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember
yeah.
one of my first jobs, I was a janitor, right? And
Yeah.
I was cleaning up dorm rooms at UCLA. And these dorm rooms were absolutely filthy. But one of the things, so like now I'm working for other people. I'm not gonna participate in the in these things. I don't really get
Mm.
anything other than like a super super small paycheck, because I'm not getting paid much, right? But what this teaches me is it's patience, it's humbleness, my days, like how to be humble and how to respect those who are in positions that they might not want to be in. I'm working alongside people who just got outside of prison, being able to talk to everyone as though they are my equal. Right. So I
Yep.
learned these things, although this isn't what I would necessarily want to be doing at all. By no means. This is actually bettering myself in the process. Now, there's a problem in which when we try to do things selfishly, we actually hurt our growth. So you grow in things that actually aren't good for you. You learn to be
Yeah.
more selfish, which might tend to you being more alone or being more of a dick, right? Which means that you harm other
Yeah.
people in the process. And, you kind of go down this path, which might never have been meant for you, nor is it beneficial for you in the truest sense. So when you're actually like catering towards others or you're being selfless, you actually see the things that are actually good for you tend to grow more. The things that is actually good.
Yeah.
But I respect your
I
honesty
understand.
and just being like, yo, I'm just a little bit more selfish than that. I feel you on that. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
hold you.
yeah. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be more selfless. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's what kind of turns that away from me. Do you
Okay.
have more? Do you have more times for questions from me, or do you want to let someone else in?
Let me see. Yeah, I don't have
I'm
any.
happy to keep going, but like if you want other
I mean,
people to come in,
you
I
know,
understand.
yeah, I don't have any requests, so you can ask one more question.
All right, true. How do you feel about the statement the Bible is ambiguous for the purpose of just collecting believers? Like there are things that are almost intentionally so broad that they can be interpreted in so many ways, and it was done that way to make it easier to let people believe across lots of ages. How do you feel about
I would need to. I don't think that that's true. I think the Bible is clear on what it needs to be clear on.
that?
So I think that to set Christians apart from everything else, the Bible is very clear in how Christians are supposed to behave, how Christians are supposed to forgive, how Christians are supposed to love, whose example Christians are supposed to follow, like everything like that. I think the Bible is insanely clear on those things. And for example, I'm explaining to you tenets in Christianity, right? That
Oh yeah.
the Bible
Oh,
is
don't get me.
no, hold on,
Oh,
wait,
please
wait,
don't get
wait.
me wrong. I know that the Bible is super specific on a lot of things,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
feel
no.
there are
I'm
a
saying that.
couple key points.
Yeah, I'm saying. Okay, so you would have to highlight what those key points are, so then we could go through to figure out whether or not the Bible is actually ambiguous on those things. And then on top of that, though, on top of the scripture, we have a tradition from what's the deal, LA Apologetics. We have a tradition handed down from the apostles that explain these verses, tell you like what they mean and how they're supposed to be carried out as well. So yeah.
Um, so you said apologetics, is that a denomination?
Did I say apologetics? No, I don't know if I said apologetics, but no, apologetics is pretty much what I'm doing. It's defending the faith.
So is that a denomination or a practice?
No, it's just like a practice.
Oh, okay. Um, so for a little bit of context, real quick, I've been like when I was younger, I used to go and spend a lot of like genuine time at church. I went to a Catholic church to begin with, and then I went to a evangelical church.
Okay.
So that's kind of like where my views are based off of, just as a little bit of context. But from what I understand, it's the like the accuracy and uh, sorry, I just want to get my words right. I don't want to say it wrong. Um, like the way you interpret it, it's specific enough to like give you a general guise in a lot of ways. I can't think of an exact verse,
Mm.
but like a lot of ways, it's for example, I might say you need to, yeah, don't run from this, or I'm trying to convey a message, but I leave the message open to wiggle enough so you can relate it to a lot of different things. Or
Yeah, I don't think that Christianity does that. I think Jesus says that I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I think that's very clear. So, like, in order to be a Christian, the things that you need to do in order to be a Christian is very clear. You can't have faith apart from works, for faith without works is dead. You show your faith by your works. You have to be baptized, right? You have to live in love. If you give expecting to get something in return, then what credit is that to you? For even sinners do that, right? So I think it's very clear as to what is necessary for you to do in order to be a Christian, right? Taking part in his body and his blood. Do this as often as you can in remembrance of me, right?
yeah,
I think that it's very clear. So those verses, right, where, oh, if you're an adulterer or you're sexually immoral, you're lazy, you're, all these sins, then you will have no part in the kingdom of God. That's very clear. That's very clear. So I would need to see examples, but I think that Christianity is very clear as to what standard it holds the people who claim to believe it to do.
yeah. I don't think I represented my point well. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, one more question. This one's a little bit heavier. What do you think about the claim that the Bible supports genocide? And there are certain examples I have for this. I believe one was when God called to, this is the promised land. Anyone there, kill them. Do not even let the women, the children, or the animals escape. Make sure you hunt them down and kill them. Is that not by definition a genocide ordered by God?
Well, the way in which I read that verse, as well as a lot of the scholars, is in context. So, in regards with the times, the way in which people in the ancient Near East talked about war, they used hyperbole. So, God is just saying, go in there and have a dominating victory. But you'll see in those verses, you don't have any verses of children being unalived, and you have the Amalekites like there after the fact. So the way in which like war is talked about back then is just with hyperbole. So they would say, like, we have ancient inscriptions talking about Israel, saying that Israel is laid waste, it's no more, right? Because they defeated Israel in battle. But obviously that's not literal. It's not completely laid waste. It's not no more. So the way in which they talk about it is just like the same way if we're on the football field and I'm like, hey, go out there and kill him, leave no man standing. I'm not literally like, saying to leave no man standing, but to have a dominating victory. They would talk that same way about war.
Yeah, but I feel like the wording was a bit more specific. Also, do the historical accounts not show that the Jews then followed out and carried out the mass murder of those people?
Yeah, no. So like everybody here, if you want, we could go to the verses. Do you want to go to the verses?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna look it up on my thing too.
Okay. Okay. So
Also, if you don't want to talk about the point, we can totally skip it if you'd like.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, you're not gonna come to Christianity yet, anyway. But if this is a stumbling block in your journey, and we can help you better understand certain things, then cool.
Well, as a road's paved with every brick.
So, so now go and strike Amalek and devote to destruction all that they have. Do not spare them, but unalive both man and woman, child and infant, ox, sheep, and camel and donkey. So then when you keep reading, I think it's in verse 8. Yeah. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites alive and devoted to destruction all the people with the edge of the sword. So it makes it seem like, oh, all these people are unalived, right? Like
what one's that? What verse? I've got a
First Samuel. Dang.
Wait. Samuel
15.
First Samuel, damn it. First Samuel 15, was it?
Yeah, First Samuel chapter 15.
Is it under the Lord rejects Saul as king?
Yeah.
Okay. And what? So
So start.
1:15.
Yeah, so you could start in verse 3 for the objection that you're talking about.
Oh, now go and attack the Amalekites, totally destroy all that belongs to them, do not spare them, put death to man, woman, child, infants, cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
then you go down to verse 8, right? And it says, and he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive and devoted to destruction all the people with the edge of the sword. So seems like everybody is dead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you go to chapter 27, verse 8, so the same book, First Samuel, chapter 27, verse 8, talks about
Yeah.
these same Amalekites, and it says, now David and his men went up and made raids against the Girgashites, the Gerizzites, and the Amalekites, for these were the inhabitants of the land from old. So these same people who inhabited the land, the Amalekites, were still alive even after in 1 Samuel 15 it says that they were all unalive. Because the way in which they talk about war is using hyperbole. They over exaggerate.
So, yeah, so that shows that they're. But does it not say that the Lord rejected Saul as a king because he failed to kill every single one of them?
No, not because he failed to unalive every single one of them. So you could keep reading 1 Samuel 15.
Yeah. The soldiers brought them the Amalekites.
But
They
Saul and the
spared
people.
best of the sheep and the cattle to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but we totally destroyed the rest.
Yeah. So and the word of the Lord came to Samuel. But what Saul does is he keeps the king alive. So what they're supposed to do is, what Saul was supposed to do was destroy them as a nation, right? You don't leave the head of the nation alive. So Saul is just doing what's good in his own eyes. This isn't the first time that Saul has done such a thing. So
Well, a head isn't much good without the body.
no, one
A king isn't
one of
much
the
good without his entire nation.
so first what we see is that they didn't go in and just raid the civilians, because we see that the Amalekites are alive. Now the thing that you see here is not that, oh, he kept some of the people alive. No, he kept what was pleasing to him, which was the sheep and the riches of the nation, right? That's what he kept, but it doesn't say that he kept the people alive. So when it's talking about the Amalekites, after, obviously there's still people alive, because the people who engaged in war were the warriors, and they devote them to destruction.
Oh, no, it says here, Saul went to the city of Amalek to set an ambush in the ravine. Then he said to the Canaanites, go away, leave the Amalekites. I do not destroy you along with them, for you showed kindness when we came up to Egypt. Oh, wait, no, sorry, I've misinterpreted that. My apologies.
It's okay.
But he also said he summoned 2,000 foot soldiers and another 10,000 from Judah. You don't really summon 12,000 people in ancient time unless you're planning to go to full-fledged war against another.
Yeah, that's fine though. Like, them going to war with the warriors of that nation is not a problem. You're saying that they unalived infants. There's no verse that says that any infants was unalive. There's verses that go to show that the Amalekites are still alive after, even though it is specified that all people of the Amalekites were devoted to destruction, which supports the argument that I'm putting forth, that hyperbole is used when talking about war. Now, this isn't only biblical evidence, but extra biblical evidence, like evidence outside the Bible, also goes to support this argument as well, that the way in which people in the ancient Near East talked about war is that they will over exaggerate.
Mm-hmm. I see. I went on a mission. The Lord assigned me. I see. Well, it says here, 17, although you're once small in your own eyes, did you not become the head of the tribes of Israel? The Lord anointed you king over Israel. He sent you on a mission saying, go and completely destroy all those wicked people, the Amalekites. Wage war against them until you have wiped them out. Why did you not obey the Lord? Why did you pounce on the plunder and do evil in the eyes of the Lord? Goes on to say, but I did obey. I went on the mission. The Lord beside me. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought Agag, their king, back. The soldiers took the sheep cattle for plunder. I devoted to God and sacrificed and got a giggle. Like, so as far as they know, as far as they're saying, like, they did do it. Also, when you like use that analogy, like a coach saying, go out and kill them. Yeah, but the difference is, instead of a coach saying, go out and kill them, the coach is saying, go out, shove a knife deep into their neck and make sure they're not breathing when you leave. That's like the difference of how he's worded it.
Yeah,
And
and that's what I'm saying. You had to see how this is understood, and you see what Saul is in trouble for he's talking to the prophet of God. When you read the next verse where you stopped, verse 22, it says, and Samuel said, has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of divination, and presumption as is iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you from being king.
So did he not just reject him because he did not kill all of them?
No, it's because his people take the plunder from that nation. So they don't go and just you're not supposed to have anything to do with these people. And you're supposed to rely on God for your provision. But instead, and this is the second time that Saul does this, instead, Saul goes in and does what he sees fit. And he says, oh, but we have the animals for sacrifice, which is why Samuel, the prophet of God, is saying, does the Lord really delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices more than you just obeying his voice? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen is better than the fat of rams. So the thing is that the head of Israel is going in and willfully disobeying the word of God, not unaliving infants.
The sheep and the cattle alive.
Yeah, but no, it's not just taking the sheep and the cattle alive, but it's for their own goal and for their own benefit. God doesn't want that from you. He can say here.
Yeah, he was trying to interpret the will of God instead of just listening.
Exactly. So that's what Saul is in trouble for. Is his disobedience, not in unaliving, you left the infant in there. That's not what's being talked about. It's about him trying to do things that's pleasing and good to him, and then he gives an excuse as to why he does it. He's not repentant at all, which is why you see this difference between Saul and David. Because when David sins and goes against the Lord, he's repentant. But when Saul sins, he gives excuses.
Also, they did put Agag to death in 33, I believe.
Yeah.
So I find it hard. Like, I understand what you're saying,
but who put Agag to death?
Samuel.
Exactly. So it's the prophet of the Lord that goes and makes sure that he tries to devote the Amalekites to destruction with cutting off the head, right? Because if you don't have a head, then the body is useless. That's the point. So you're supposed to cut off the head, which is why Saul is like, we did it. I got the king right here. It's not, we unalived all the infants. It's about taking their power away from them, which is their king.
But Samuel is saying you interpreted the will of the Lord to your own decree and not just listened to it, and therefore you were punished. The will of the Lord, directly by his statement, was to go in and kill them all. So by that meaning,
it's the will of the Lord was
that would also be a sin of not interpreting the Lord.
No, the will of the Lord was to devote them to destruction. right? So in devoting them to destruction, it's talking about just taking over the nation, making sure they don't have a power structure anymore. That's the will of the
But
Lord that's talked about in verse 3. And then the way in which that's articulated is using hyperbole.
the Lord Almighty says, so this is the direct word of God.
Yeah.
I will
From
punish the Amalekites. It literally says, this is what the Lord Almighty says.
from
I will
Samuel.
punish.
It's from Samuel.
It is the role of Samuel that will recount the word of the Lord as told to him as a prophet.
Yeah. But he
He
speaks that in a language in which the people are going to understand. If you read verse 1, you see that Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint you king over the people of Israel. Now therefore listen to the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts. I've noted that what Amalek did to Israel in opposing them on the way when they came up out of Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek and devote them to destruction." So Samuel is
this
telling
may
this.
be a um, translation thing, because on my Bible it says this is a message from the Lord. So these words have been sent to you by the Lord.
He's like, God told him to go and overtake Amalek. And Samuel is relaying this message of, hey, go in there, don't try to take anything for yourself, have nothing to do with this nation. We're completely devoting them to destruction. But that's not that they actually understood that and saying that, oh, we're going to go in there and unalive the infants. No, there's no
So
evidence that that's how they understood it.
is Samuel accurately saying the word of the Lord as recounted by God? Like, is what Samuel says the truth? He said, God told me to tell you this. Is
It's
this
like
actually what God said?
if my mom tells me to tell my brother, like, hey, go in there and clean the kitchen, right? So then I go and I relay this message, hey, mom wants you to wash the dishes and sweep and mop the floors and like wipe the outside of and inside of the microwave, right? I'm explaining to him as to like my understanding of my mother's commands.
I see. Well, I think that's a difference in denomination, because, at least from my experience in the evangelical church, it literally means, this is the word of God. This is quite literally what God said. He is, the difference, I think, is, I understand it as, instead of saying, Mum told you to wash the dishes, no, you accurately say exactly,
I mean,
Mum said wash the
even if it
dishes.
was the case, like say for instance, if I wanted to grant it to you, although you haven't presented an argument as to why I should take your interpretation. If it was God just saying devote them to destruction in the way in which you think it is, what's the problem?
Well, he doesn't say devote them to destruction in a way what it is. He
No,
says
I'm saying in
totally
the way in
destroy
which
all the
in the
monsters.
way
Do
in
not
which you
destroy.
understand it, the way in which you think you're saying, what's the problem what's the problem?
Well, because if that is the direct word of God, then God's literally told you to go commit a genocide, and that is morally wrong.
According to
Man,
who?
may I say something too?
So wait, a genocide's up for debate is okay?
I mean, like say for instance, if people wanted to to go and unalive all those who were Yazis, right, in the 1940s, I wouldn't be opposed if these people have done some wrong in which they get justice for their wrongdoings, or if somebody just wanted to go and unalive all grapists. I'm not gonna sit here and be opposed. Like,
Well,
I
that's not genocide. That's genocide is the extermination of a people.
so
If
like
you're
yeah,
going
so
to
like the
say kill all
Yazis.
Nazis, well, that determines it. Like, if you're saying everyone that worked in the Nazi party, maybe, but that's not a genocide. If you're saying every German citizen of the time, yeah, I'd say that's wrong. That a lot of those people didn't kill anyone.
But that's the thing, is that never happened though.
Yeah,
The Amalekites were still alive even in a few chapters later in 27. But it mentions the Amalekites are there with David in verse 8. You also see them years later in First Chronicles chapter 4 verse 43, that the remnants of Amalekites are still there. It's not like they're totally unalive. The verbiage still stands. of war language.
Yeah.
He just doesn't
But
want to. You haven't presented a good enough argument for me to accept your interpretation of that verse.
I yeah, I personally think this is just a personal interpretation issue. If that's how you see it,
No, we have
I can't.
scholars. We have scholars to go and support this interpretation. This isn't a personal interpretation. This is steeped in not just biblical evidence, but extra biblical evidence as well.
Within the Middle Eastern culture of that time,
Yeah.
how they talked when it came to war language, they'll say things like, as Elijah just said, completely wiped about, or that we already did that, we wiped it completely off the map.
Yeah.
However you dress it up, but that didn't deny the fact that they were still there. Just as we see later on in chapter 27 of Samuel, or First Chronicles, the Amalekites is still there.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally, I think it even runs deeper than that. I don't agree with a God that orders someone to go to war because of land. I don't see
I told you in verse 2 why they went to war. It's
what.
because, yeah, verse 2, if you go back to Exodus 17, verses like 8 to 16.
8 to 16, yeah.
The Amalekites attacked the Israelites for no reason.
Yeah.
They attacked them when they were coming out of the, from Egypt and stuff, and they attacked them for no reason.
And in Deuteronomy 25, verse 17 and 19, God says that, remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you came out of Egypt, how he attacked you on the way when you were faint and weary and cut off your tail of those who were lagging behind you, and he did not fear God. Therefore, when the Lord your God has given you rest from all your enemies around you in the land your Lord God is giving you for an inheritance possess, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. You shall not forget.
That's what verse 2 says in 1 Samuel 15. It says, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he ambushed him on the way when he came up from Egypt. That's what 1 Samuel 15:2 says.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, I'm not. Personally, I don't support that. It's just a personal thing. How can someone preach forgiveness of all under, any sin? Literally, as long as they turn to God, forgive them.
It doesn't mean that you can do anything. What we're talking about is justice.
Yeah, it's not at the
No,
it's
the
not at
point is
the
that, like,
exception of
go sin,
justice.
then repent. Like,
Yeah,
that's
but
not the point. But
it's not at the exception of justice. God doesn't just forgive at the expense of justice. That's not what Christians actually believe, that like God is both merciful and perfectly just at the same time. So it's not at the expense of, oh, God's not going to be just anymore. No, justice is still going to be paid.
It would be unjust not to do so.
And I think that's where the difference comes in. I think my way of justice conflicts with the justice portrayed in the Bible. I think that's the biggest difference. I don't think the way that God exacts justice and the people and what it's done, I don't think the ends in any way justify the means.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess it comes down to personal reasoning in a lot of these cases.
Not really, but all right. I'm gonna let you go.
See you around, man. Stay safe.
Yeah, that's somebody that, regardless of whatever, at this point, I'm not saying that he'll never come to Christ. Perfectly, he does, but he doesn't want to believe in God. You're there to tell that, like, oh, like, you're telling me that I'm gonna be experiencing goodness, and like his goodness is infinite. I don't want to experience that. And he's honest, at least. Like, he's like, right now I'm just selfish, and I'd rather that than somebody who, like, either doesn't know that they're selfish or just not willing to say that they're selfish. But
He said, God forbid I experience infinite goodness.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's why like the idea of hell makes more and more sense. It's like, oh, you're going to be in the presence of God regardless, and whether or not you like that is going to determine kind of your experience as well. Like as the grace and the perfecting of your nature through Christ Jesus. And it just like the more people that I talk to, it makes more and more sense as to like why hell is explained that way. Because you see so many people who are just opposed to God, like genuinely don't like him. And if they were in his presence, they wouldn't like him.
Mm.
What's the deal, Machete? I'm praying for you, Miles. I'll try to remember to pray, bro. Like, I'll be forgetting people's names. But, yes, the way that people talk about war in the ancient Near East, the way that people talk about war in the ancient Near East is that they would use hyperbole. They use hyperbole. Yeah, I got a prayer list. I gotta add them to the list. I have you happen to be the IE? No. I have, so I don't know if you guys know, but this channel on YouTube, Graceful Gatherings, was used as a I used to use it for Bible study. So this was like I only use this for Bible studies for us. So this is when we'd be doing Bible studies and whatnot. I don't even know where to go. I gotta go all up. Yeah, so like all this down here, and it's a lot more actually. I want to see if I could find like playlists or something. I don't know where to find these things. But I have like it's a full playlist.
After this event,
But there's no telling where this playlist can be found. I should probably do better at. Oh wait, I think I saw it. I should probably do better at trying to find these things.
Event,
Okay, cool. So we were going through the Bible. We were going through the Bible and like chapter by chapter, book by book. We got all the way up to, it seems like Proverbs. Maybe we got a little bit after that, but I think we stopped like right before we get to Isaiah. But I think if you watch the one for Samuel, if you guys want, you don't have to watch these things, but we talk about all these things. Let's see. Yeah, so we go and we talk about 1 Samuel 15, and I'll bring in some of the like the context, and we'll talk about all of those things. So like if you want, you could go and you could look into these things. You could watch videos on it. If you want, we talk about the angel of the Lord, Joshua. This was one of my favorite. Understanding the Old Testament sacrifices. Doing this Bible study was actually really fun. I enjoyed it. Like doing a Bible study before actually presenting the Bible study was really fun. But yeah, if you guys want, you guys can go and look at that. We get all the way up to Proverbs. I think in Proverbs I explain like Proverbs 8. The Hebrew for Proverbs 8. I mean, I liked it. It was a cool time. I used to just invite people over and we would have Bible study. So yeah, you got to get a little black book. Low key, low key. But what's the name also has inspiring philosophy goes in on like the war language that's used in the ancient Near East, and you could look into all those sources. That's the first time you seen me standing. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. What's the deal, Gabriel? Yeah, nah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I love IP too. IP, he pretty cold. He actually really cold. Stay blessed. Bless. What's the deal? Vinland Saga? No idea. Vinland Saga. Let's see what that's looking like.
So you never seen it?
You said what?
You never seen it?
Nah, I ain't never seen it. Oh, I seen an edit of this. I seen an edit when they was doing like the what's the name? Oh, the Kendrick Lamar stuff. I had seen an edit of this. It got Christian references. Yeah, I think I seen a couple of edits. Is this the one where the girl is like super Christian? Cause there's one anime that I seen where the girl is like everything about God and Christ for real. I might have to tap in. Wait, when they say hold on. I need to see the show. Oh, it's 2 seasons. How many episodes per season?
The main character is a young boy with good and stuff. Yeah, it does have a good amount of Christian.
24 episodes? 24 episodes in season 2? My days.
You can finish that in a week.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. We shall see.
Bro, you gotta watch it, bro. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. Trust me.
Well,
It's
so what's
worth it,
that?
bro.
Is it?
Yes, it's worth it. Trust me.
Elijah, this one.
Woo! That's 40. Dang, hey, it look peak. I ain't gonna hold you. 9 point.
It's peak.
That's a most.
9.4, 9.2, 9.5, 8.8, 9.3, 9. Woo! It do look peak.
Yup.
Alright, I might have to tap in. You said it's on Netflix?
You got Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta tap in, bro. It's tough.
Alright, for sure. Hey, look. Alright.
It's hard. Trust me, it's hard.
Hold on, let me write it down. We blessed in the city. Alright, let me write this down. What's it called?
You know he's gonna ask you again.
You said what?
You know he's gonna ask you about it again. He's like, Elijah, did you watch it?
I'll be trying to watch.
Cool, you know.
Yeah, I'll be trying to watch the stuff that people told me to watch. Like Cam just told me to watch this one movie with Will Ferrell. I watched it the other day. I'll be trying.
Which one was it?
Kicking and Screaming. Hello.
Hi,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you Christian?
Not anymore.
Why not?
So personally, it felt like I was more afraid of like making mistakes, and going to hell than I was about following God.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of overwhelmed me to the point to where I just felt like I was only doing these things because I was following God, not because like I wanted to necessarily. It's kind of hard to explain, but pretty much the gist of it is just that, like, the fear of God overwhelms me more than the love of God, I guess you could say.
So you decided not to be Christian?
Yeah, because I felt like there was too many like high standards that I needed to follow, and that made it so that every single decision in my life was questioned, and I couldn't just like live freely. I just felt like I was kind of in a prison.
What does living freely mean?
Without fear, making choices without the fear of not necessarily consequence, because there is consequence to bad decisions, but more about the consequence of religion along with it.
So you're saying living without fear of consequences?
No, I'm saying not that, because I know there's consequences to everything you do, but certain things that I would indulge in, like being interested in witchcraft and other things like that. I felt like I couldn't fully look into those things and indulge in them without the fear that God's going to be like, oh, well, you don't follow me, or like you're going to go to hell for, doing this or that. I don't want to have the fear of going to hell because of the decisions I make in life. I'd rather be able to live freely and do what I want and be able to, take the consequences that life gives me with it, rather than worrying about all these consequences that might build out to me going to hell.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think it is a little backwards, though. I don't think that it doesn't sound like you're thinking it through all the way.
Well, I was a Christian for the majority of my life. I'm 24 now, and I was a Christian up until I was 18. And I've gone to service every Sunday, every Wednesday. I've been in the church for a long time.
I mean, that doesn't make you a Christian, though.
I know it doesn't, but if you'd let me finish, I'd be able to explain.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. My fault.
No. So, like, at church, there was a lot of just things that happened that I'd rather not bring anecdotes into, but I would listen to these pastors talk about certain things, and it just didn't align with my thoughts of what I believed. And I felt like, even though like I can't change what I believe personally, like even throughout like Christ and like Christianity, I still had these thoughts in my mind that they were saying were sins, I guess you could say. And I feel like there was a lot of hatred brought into the church when I would express these things, and it felt more like they were trying to save face rather than do what's right, I guess you could say.
Okay. Well, here, I'll say this. The thing is that there are things that are right and there are things that are wrong. Now, regardless as to whether or not you want to go through the consequences of choosing wrong or the benefits of choosing right, that's up to you. Right? If you want to act like those consequences aren't there, once again,
I'm not saying they're not there. They are definitely there. It's just that there's a lot of judgment when it comes to the Christian faith, and making mistakes. And God always says like, oh, even if you make mistakes, like I still love you if you still believe in me. But the people that I was surrounded with at church didn't bring that same kind of acceptance to the people who were trying to follow God. And so it seemed like every single thing that you did wrong was pushing you further and further away from God, rather than trying to show that God will love you no matter what.
Yeah, so mistakes are often actions taken in ignorance that was the wrong choice. right? Now, when we willingly go against God, that's not a mistake. That's just a decision to go against God. Now, a Christian is supposed to stand up for that which is right and that which aligns with God. Now, I don't know the people in your church, and they very well might be overdoing their job. That's very probable. I don't. That's probably what happened. However, standing against that which is wrong is what a Christian is supposed to do, especially out of concern for you, right? So if you're dabbling in things that can be harmful to either you or to your soul or to other people, then it would be my responsibility to speak out about such things. You're making decisions that can be harmful to your life. Now, if you want to do that, but there are consequences that come with that.
See,
So
that's the thing, is that, like, we're given free will, number
mhm.
one, by God, and that's what it says. And that's the free will to make correct or wrong decisions. But when you become curious about things outside of Christ, they make it seem like it's a sin to even look into those things and to educate yourself on those things, because once you step into it, you're sinning or you're doing this or that. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like what I've heard in the Bible is very different from what I've heard from the Christians that I've communicated with around me. Like God, and well, Jesus, not God, but Jesus specifically talked about sitting with sinners and helping them and all this kind of stuff. But then when it comes to today's sinners, they reject them and they make them feel like they're horrible people, and they don't bring them back to Christ. They just like push them away. And with that, it makes it hard to follow God when you don't have people that are, showing you love through God. They're just showing you like despise and all this other stuff.
Yeah, so you remember there's a story that's very popular in Christianity called like the story of Adam and Eve, or the story of the fall. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so one of the things in this story is not that the tree of knowledge of good and evil is just bad and you can't know anything about it. No, the tree of knowledge of good and evil is supposed to be understood in light of God and the knowledge that God imparts to you. So, as a Christian, I can understand witchcraft from the right side of the tree, right? Through my knowledge of Christ, I can understand Christ, who is God. I can understand that which opposes God, right? I have a correct knowledge about these things because my framework goes through Christ, not through my own lens. So when
I
we're
understand
partake,
that.
so and the thing is that the destruction of man comes when they try to acquire this knowledge through improper means. They try to go around God to acquire knowledge about the thing that they're curious about, when they could have just gone straight to God and asked about such things.
I
So
understand that.
the
It's just
thing,
like the.
I was still
Sorry.
talking.
Sorry.
So the thing is, it's okay. The thing is that when you're going into the things that you're interested in, try to make sure that you're acquiring that knowledge in the right way. And if God is not first in the way in which you're acquiring that knowledge, then you're doing it in the wrong way, which could be harmful and devote you to destruction.
Can I respond?
Yes.
So I'm glad that you brought up the Adam and Eve story, because I think that's a great, anecdotal to what I'm trying to explain. Is when Eve ate the apple from the tree or whatever, instead of God saying, "You made a mistake, um, and I'll still love you no matter what," he decided to ban them from being in that, what's it called, like forest or
Garden.
garden. And I think that that's a really good example of why it fears me when it comes to God, is because they made one mistake and they were banished from the garden.
No,
And that
so
means, let me finish real quick.
my fault.
And so since they were banished from the garden, they were taken away from all of these things that could help them survive, take care of themselves, and everything, just because of one mistake. And there's no story showing that God said, okay, you've made the mistake, you've dealt with your penance, and now you can come back. And that's the thing that irritates me the most, is no matter if you tell someone something is good or bad, they are still going to make mistakes. And God preaches, quote unquote, that, you can always come back from that. But within these stories, all I'm seeing is them being shunned but not brought back.
So, great analogy too. But so if you actually read that story, God does love them in the middle of all of this. He promises Eve that from her is going to come the Messiah that's going to undo all that which was done to them. Now, when they eat from the fruit,
Isn't that Mary?
yes.
So Eve and Mary are two completely different stories.
Yeah, but she comes from the line of Eve.
Yeah, but it's a completely different
Yeah,
person.
so
It doesn't really have to do with that specific story.
it's a promise to Eve that they're not just banished and cut off completely. So
Well,
when
they
hold
live
on,
and
you're
die.
interrupting me.
I'm just saying they live and die.
Yes, so
Banished.
when they eat
So,
from the
of
fruit,
course.
they break themselves. So what God says in verse 22 is that now, lest he reach out his hand and also take from the tree of life and eat and live forever, therefore the Lord God sent him out of the Garden of Eden. So that they don't live forever broken, God sends them out to protect them from living like that forever. And he says,
So they leave them with nothing.
says that I'm going to recreate you. And he does
Generations down the line.
this.
May I say something real quick as well?
I'm just saying that, like,
Hold on.
this is the Eve and
And
the
he
Mary
does
story
this.
are completely different generations.
Yes,
And
but
I'm
he
talking
does
about
this.
Eve-
He
I'm talking
does
about
this
Eve
through
specifically.
Christ
Eve
Jesus. So the reason
specifically,
as to why, the
she was
reason as to
banned.
why, she's protected, and the reason as to why it takes the time is that so people like me and people like you can look back at all the groundwork that God has done, so that we can know when He shows up. Now we can have faith in the evidence that He's already laid.
The thing is that, Mary and Eve are completely different generations. Eve was already passed on before Mary brought the Savior to earth. And, if Eve's going to live her entire life not seeing, God bringing something good out of the bad that she did, and she dies thinking that God doesn't love her, then that doesn't really bring me any comfort. It's like, yeah, I make mistakes, so I have to wait and watch after I'm dead to see people doing better than me. Like, I don't really see how that
That's
makes
not what
sense.
happened though. So if you
That's
read
what you're
chapter
telling
4,
me.
starting in verse 1, it says, "Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gotten a boy with the help of the Lord." So she doesn't have this understanding that, oh, God just abandoned me. But the very next thing that we read, one is the uniting of man and woman in marriage. And two, you see that when she gives birth, she gives thanks to the Lord.
Elijah, can
So,
I add on to that abandonment part?
yeah.
Yeah, because the misconception is that this was just a mistake. When in the passage, Genesis, what does it?
Yeah.
I think it's similar, but anyway, in Genesis chapter 3, if you read verse 6, like just before all this happens, she's having a conversation with the serpent, and it says that before she ate it, that she saw that the tree was good for food. I mean, using the word "good" here, she already knew what was wrong and what was right. She even told the serpent that, "Hey, God said not to do this," so she knew what she was doing. And going forward with that, even though they did wrong, God still showed them mercy and forgiveness by clothing them with animals.
But they were
So
banished from food, from from
Right.
shelter, from everything of that sort.
Yeah, I was getting to that part. I was going to say that he still clothed them with animal skin, which is meaning something had to
Oh,
be.
I took everything away from you, but here's one thing, and you should be grateful for it.
No.
No, that's fucking
I
stupid.
didn't finish my statement.
I'm just saying it's
They were
stupid.
clothed. They were clothed with animal.
Generations later of a lady giving birth to somebody, and
Sarah,
then
Sarah. They were clothed with animal skin, meaning that something was unalive. So
Here, it's fine. It's fine. Sarah,
he's emotional.
Sarah, it's okay. Here, we'll let you go. We'll let you go. It's okay.
y'all are just stupid about this. You're not making any fucking sense.
Okay. So
It happens.
we are going to, for Sarah, and it might sound harsh, but pray her into the hands of Satan for the salvation of her soul.
Okay, Paul.
That's what it seems like. She's already dabbling in that. So pray that, like, just like the prodigal son, that in the midst of all of that, the destruction and things like that, that she sees in her life that this is not good, and that she comes back like the prodigal son. Pray for her. She's gonna make the decisions, but pray in the middle of that decisions that she still has wisdom to see when a situation can be left, and that she doesn't feel stuck in the pig pen, for example. I'm gonna go pee real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah. And leaving me here with no mind. That's crazy.
Yeah, hello.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, so is that question for me or for you?
Well, first I want to know, like, what's your faith? Like, do you have any religious affiliation?
Well, to be fair, mate, like, with all this religious stuff in the world, this is what, makes everyone in this world, go down.
Uh-huh. So, yeah, I'm assuming you don't then?
No, like, not like, physical, but more like spiritual.
So you're like a spiritualist. You just believe in things that are spiritual, right?
Oh, no. Like, okay. So, like,
Okay, do you
by
believe in the
what I
Bible?
mean, like, I've tried to. I want to. And there's, half of me that I don't want to.
Okay. So what's your
Because
problem with, do you have any
I'm
problem with
too,
Christianity?
I do with who,
Like what?
because all written. And apparently it's being documented.
What's being documented?
The Bible, there's no, like, proof at all that
About what?
the man himself, that he was here. And there's been no shown proof, like, where he, where he was, where he went.
Of what man? What man are
There's
you
no
talking
proof
about?
at all.
Yeah, what man are you talking about?
Pardon?
Yeah, I asked what man are you talking about that the Bible doesn't portray well?
Your man.
What man?
No offense, Jesus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you're saying the Bible, there's no existence for him or something?
It's been written, it's been pretty much, like, published throughout all for us indigenous people. For us to believe, but till this day we're still, fuck. We haven't been actually where ourselves have wanted to be.
Okay, I don't see how that leads to Jesus not being real based on that.
Because if he was right, everyone should be all,
Everyone should know.
all there. But we're not all there, are we?
All there where? What do you mean? Where are we where are we trying to get to according to you?
According to me.
Yeah.
Well, I've been asking you, there's no existence.
Of Jesus, right? So
Yes.
What's the topic?
that's the thing, is that there's a bit of a language barrier, a little bit. So it's a little hard. But
Uh,
he, so far as we said, is that there's no existence of Jesus, and the Bible is, just a written document that's not.
there's no existence of Jesus.
So far as what
Correct.
I've gotten out of it.
What is existence?
Existence of the man that's actually been down here, or of the name called Jesus. No one has seen him. No one can actually, no one's seen him.
No.
It's been documented.
Where do you get that from?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
A lot of what's it called? Pudaku. So in a lot of stories.
There's a lot of documents that say that Jesus did exist, though.
Yes, that's because it's been documented.
I'm gonna let you go. All right.
Thank you.
Alright then, say Fez. You have a good one.
You too,
Yep.
bro.
What she said? There's a certain height limit. So
Okay, Kyle, you didn't load up. Let's see. If anybody got any questions in the chat, feel free to ask. In both chats, YouTube, TikTok, don't matter. I'm not Christian because I don't find Christianity useful in my life, for sure. For sure. Who here had seen the atheist tier list that BBB has made? I haven't. I don't even know who BBB is.
that's a crazy name.
Hi, can you hear me?
Big baller brand. Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Oh, hey, I just have a question, I guess. I'm trying to figure out, so I've been trying to read up more about the afterlife and whatnot.
Okay.
Do you guys believe in heaven or no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, from the Bible, I guess, our understanding is that in heaven, Satan fell, right?
He fell from Satan. I mean, yeah, he fell from heaven. Yeah.
He fell from heaven, he took a third of the angels with him.
I mean,
So-
scholars would argue against a third of the angels, but whatever.
Yeah, but basically what happened is that at some point, something quote unquote bad happened in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Can something bad happen in heaven though? Because isn't the whole point that we're supposed to go to heaven where we can only be our best selves, our true self?
No, so
What's to keep heaven from just having another fall?
Well,
yeah, so my fault. Yeah, so with the heaven that you have now and the earth that you have now, so like with an angel has the same like job essentially that a human does in aligning his will with God. Now Satan aligns his will away from God, and he falls out of heaven, right? He goes away from God. So in the new heaven and the new earth that the book of Revelation talks about, it is filled with those who have aligned themselves with God. The angels who align themselves, their wills away from God, are judged. You're breaking up. So the angels who align their wills away from God.
Oh yeah, I might need to join another time.
Okay. That sucks. But all right, I'll let you go. Yeah, you're breaking up bad.
I'll keep listening though.
Okay.
But I'll down.
Yeah, he was gone for a minute and still talking. His lag is crazy. But yeah, so the angels who've aligned themselves away from God, they're going to be judged. You read about this in the book of Revelation. What's the name? I know bought by blood. He is not the one. No, bought by blood. I ain't even. I know bought by blood though. I do know bought by blood.
Is he cold?
No,
Oh,
no, no, no. Please, when bought by blood starts talking about Christology, please, please
Yo, what's
do
up, man?
not listen to bought by blood. What's up, bro?
Yeah, so am I supposed to answer the question on the screen? Weren't I a Christian?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically I don't think there's sufficient evidence to warrant belief in a God.
Why not?
The burden of proof is not on me.
What would be evidence?
I don't know what would be evidence because I haven't found it, but
How would
everything
you?
that's...
How would you know when you found it?
I'm sorry?
How would you know when you found it? That's like me saying that, like, hey, can you help me look for this item? You have no idea what you're looking for. How would you know when you found the item?
I don't think that's a good analogy at all.
You saying that you haven't seen enough evidence, but you don't know what evidence would even look like. How would you know when you found
Yes, but
evidence?
I can judge the evidence that is given based on logical reasoning, right?
If I tell you, hey, help me find this item, and then you pick this
Yes.
up, and you say, is this the item? And I'm just like, nah.
No, the point is that once you show me the item, I would know that is the item. What you're saying is
That
that the item exists and you haven't shown it to me yet.
No. I'm saying that you're saying you're looking for evidence. So the
Correct.
evidence is the item. You're looking for evidence. I ask, what does the evidence
Okay,
look like?
I'll give you an example, all right? Let's say corroborating independent sources of eyewitnesses. Let's just say that.
Okay.
For the resurrection of Jesus Christ, for example, because that's the pinpoint of, I guess, everyone's belief in Christianity.
you're going into a different topic, but okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
you just asked for the existence of God. We're talking about the existence of God.
All right.
Yeah, but are you talking about the existence of the Christian God?
Yeah, we can argue for both, but there's only one God that exists. So if we show that God exists, it's going to be the Christian God.
Okay, now can you tell me why do you believe that God exists?
Logical arguments.
Such as?
The argument from motion, the deante, efficient cause.
Okay, so at most, this points to a deistic God. And why would that have
No,
to
it
be a
does
Christian
not.
God necessarily?
The
Yes,
argument
it
from
does.
motion does not point to a deistic God at all.
Okay, then why does it point to a Christian God then?
Because this God is purely actual. It has all perfections. It is goodness itself.
Okay,
And
so
the nature of
the same
goodness
as the
is to
God
be the nature of goodness is to be self-diffusive. That means that, like, the nature of goodness is to communicate itself towards another. Therefore, God's nature would have to be self-diffusive internally, which would require a multiplicity of persons. Only religion that has a multiplicity of persons while maintaining one God is Christianity. So Christianity would
Why
be,
do you need multiplicity of person for the argument from motion?
you could get multiplicity of persons from the argument from motion if you want.
Okay, and why does Christian God fulfill these standards?
Because it's the only God that's one in essence and multiple in person.
Why? How do you know that?
Through revelation. You know that through revelation.
You can't know anything through revelation unless the revelation occurred to you. If I said that something
What?
I came to some knowledge for revelation, would you believe me?
You said what?
Revelation is not a reliable source of information because the process stops at a person that revelation occurs to, right? If someone has revelation and they pass it on, that's not a reliable source of information.
That's only if it doesn't have any justification for it along with it.
Yeah. We have
But you're
reason to believe in revelation
What
as
reason?
well.
What reason?
So hold on, before we move on, do you now believe that God exists?
Define God.
The unactualized actualizer, the being that is purely actual.
I actually do believe that, yes.
Okay, cool. So that means you believe in an all powerful, all good, all
Why all good?
knowing.
Why does it have to be all good? Why you put
Because
most?
no goodness would be a privation. A being that is purely actual doesn't have any privations, therefore it would be all good.
You're just mumbling word salads. Like,
I'm literally not. That's called an argument for the attribute of his goodness. Like pure. Do you know what it means to be purely actual?
yes, I do. I know the argument.
Okay, so cool. So if the purely actual being is perfect, to be imperfect is to have some privation or a lack of some actuality that ought to be present. The purely actual actualizer doesn't have any unactualized potential, therefore it has no privation and is perfect. If it doesn't have to be less than fully good, is to fall short of some actuality due to privation. I'm gonna wait till you come back. Can you hear?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, to be less than fully good is to fall short of some actuality due to privation. But the purely actual actualizer has no privation, therefore it's fully good.
Okay, and is the Christian God the only one that fulfills his standards?
Yes,
Why isn't the God in Judaism or Islam doesn't fulfill these standards?
because when you're talking about goodness, any definition that you use for goodness is going to be some self-communication. So in order for this thing to be good, what goodness is going to entail some
Okay,
communicative
I don't
nature.
understand. Like you're just assuming these things. I don't know how you're pulling them
No,
out.
so like how do you define good? What is good? If you, or I'll help you. If you define good as pleasure, you're saying that the good is that which pleases or provides a pleasurable
I'm not a
experience.
hedonist. I don't believe good is pleasure.
Okay,
I'm an utilitarian. I believe that good is what maximizes utility.
okay. So if good is what is useful or beneficial for achieving some end, then it entails self-communication because a useful thing is only good insofar as it can be used. Therefore, the nature of goodness is that it communicates itself to some other thing.
Communicates itself to some other thing.
Yeah,
Doesn't
so
mean
like this
self-communication.
tool,
You said self-communication.
yeah, which means that it's self-diffusive in the sense that it can be used or utilized or
Yeah, why is the Christian God?
interacted
Okay,
with.
I grant you
Yes.
that. I
Okay,
grant you
cool.
that. Okay.
Exactly. So if you grant me that,
No, for
then
the sake of the argument, I don't agree with you. But for the sake of
if
the argument, I'll grant
if you
you that.
understand
Why
that
is the
that's
Christian
what,
God self-diffusive?
okay. So if God is the supreme good and the supreme good must essentially perfectly be self-communicative or its nature must be communicative, then for a sufficient being who lacks nothing and is essential, that self-communicative nature cannot be directed to an external creature, but needs to be internal. This internal communication of goodness would have to be between a multiplicity of persons. The only God that is a multiplicity of persons and united in one essence and still one God is the Christian God.
How do you know?
That's the only one that's taken seriously in scholarship.
Really?
Yeah.
So there isn't that. Is that an argument from what? That's a fallacy. Like what? Just because
Do
many
you
people
have
there's
another
there's
God?
loads. Do you know that biblical scholars are atheists in a bigger proportion than Christians, right?
Do
So
you
I can make
have
the same argument for you.
that? No, that's not an argument. I'm saying that the
Well,
God that's
it's your
talked
argument,
about,
but I just
the
reversed it.
God that's talked about in scholarship, that is a
Yes.
multiplicity of person and unified in one essence, not multiple beings, multiple gods, is the Christian God. Do you have another God like that?
And just because it's talked about, that means it's true.
No,
Can't
that's
you
the
think for
one.
yourself?
That's the
Can you
one that
actually
we're.
provide me some
What are you
evidence?
talking about? That's the one that we're talking about.
Yes,
I'm
but you're not
saying,
providing
do
any
you
evidence.
have?
You just say people
Do you
talk
have?
about
Do
us.
you have another God? Because I'm saying that the Christian God is the only God that is known
I
of,
don't.
that is
I
one
don't
in
need to have
essence
another God.
and
You have to
multiple
prove
in
why
person.
this is the God.
Okay, so now we can get to other arguments. So now you believe that there's one God who is good. This good is self-communicative by nature, which would entail a multiplicity of persons. You've gotten far so far.
I mean, I said for the sake of the argument, I grant you that. I don't know how you're assuming these things, but okay.
Did
You're
you
just defining
disagree?
God as this thing, and you're just assuming, oh, let this be true so that I'm right and
Did
whatever.
you
But
disagree with anything that I said?
Again, for the sake of the argument, no, because I want to hear you say why the Christian God is the true God.
Well, I mean, we don't even really have to go further. If you're landing on a God that's multiple in his personhood and
No,
distinct,
because Christianity makes loads more claims, a lot more claims than that.
but if there's a God that
Sorry?
if there's a God that exists as multiple persons, then you have to present some other God other than Christianity.
I didn't agree that must be a God with multiple persons. All I'm asking is
You
why do I
didn't
have to present
disagree
another
with
God?
you
Prove that
didn't
this is the
disagree
correct
with
God.
any of the primacy though.
I don't have to agree with any of the premises because they're not founded on anything. You're just defining God as I can do the same thing about literally everything, anything.
So here you said that you actually agree that the purely actual
No,
actualizer.
I said
Hold on,
for the
no,
sake of
you said you agree that the purely actual actualizer exists,
yes.
and then you asked why does the purely actual actualizer have to be fully good? I ran you through the argument for why it's fully good. So now we understand why this purely actual actualizer is fully good. Then we went to how goodness can entail multiple persons, which you didn't disagree with. You didn't disagree with any premise in that either. So then the
Okay.
conclusion would follow that God is a multiplicity of persons. The only religion where we see that there is one God who is purely actual, fully good, and is a multiplicity of persons is Christianity.
See, in what sense?
What do you mean? In what sense?
In what sense? Answer the question.
I don't know. What do you
When I
mean
ask you to
in what
provide some
sense?
evidence for this claim.
Bro, we just went through logical arguments.
Okay, so if I create a religion tomorrow that proposes a God that is maximally good and is a multiplicity of persons, does that make it a true religion?
You just be describing a Christian God.
No, I wouldn't, because I'd assign different attributes for the Christian.
Like
besides the
what?
Christian God.
Like what?
You know that Christianity doesn't make only these claims that there is a maximally good God, which is a multiplicity of persons. There are a myriad other claims.
Yeah, but then you'd have to justify how your God is actually this being.
Exactly, and you have to justify why the Christian God is the
That's why we're justifying that. We're
You're
saying
not
that
justifying anything. You're just saying this. Dude, you're saying because there's loads of scholarship on this point that
that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the only argument you brought up. Bring me a piece of evidence.
What I'm giving you is called a demonstration. I'm demonstrating how the Christian God is the only one who can actually be good, like be the supreme good. So
You
God
just assume
is.
it's true. Like, what is your evidence for it?
How is that just assuming it's true if I gave you premises that led to a conclusion? How's that me just assuming that it's true?
Your premises that led to your conclusion was that, okay, a God that is maximally good and has to be a multiplicity of persons must be necessary. Okay,
That is not what I said at all.
Then what did you say?
We went through how whatever definition. So you said that your definition of goodness is going to be utilitarian, right? Which means that either way, it's still going to entail some type of communication. And if God is the supreme good, then his nature must be self-communicative. But this communication cannot be external, but it has to be internal, because if it's external, then whatever it flows to must also be necessary. But if it's internal, then this communication has to happen internally, and whatever is within God would obviously still be necessary.
Okay, and why is the Christian God? Because when I ask you, when I ask you why is the Christian God the God that has his attributes, all you're saying is, well, because we just see that, or because there's lots of scholarship on it. That's not evidence.
No, we're saying that what Christians mean, that's what Christians mean by God. What Christians mean by God is the purely actual actualizer.
Prove that it actually exists.
If I take you through a logical demonstration to show that this specific God exists, and this is what Christians...
You didn't do that.
You said you knew the argument for motion. Do you want me to run you through the argument for motion?
Okay, before that, let me take another path so I can make myself clear. So, do you agree that to be a Christian, you must believe in the resurrection of Jesus?
Yes.
Why do you believe it occurred?
So if you want, bro,
Answer the
you can
question.
just say
Answer the question.
yes because of historical evidence. If you wanted to just
What
talk about the,
historical evidence?
okay, we could go through that, but I want to let you know, if you wanted to just talk about the resurrection, don't come up here and say you have no reason to believe that God exists, because that's what you came up here and you said. Now, if you want to
Yes,
talk
because
about the resurrection, we can talk about the resurrection. That's not a problem, but just say that.
I can do that because if resurrection, you cannot provide evidence for resurrection,
Okay.
Christianity as a worldview crumbles down, correct?
No.
Yes, it does. What do you mean? Dude,
So
that's in your
you said
Bible.
that
If you don't
you said that
believe, you
some of
can't call
the,
yourself a Christian if you don't believe. That's like,
okay,
what do you mean?
you said that some of the evidence, or the things that would be considered evidence for the Christian claim, is multiple eyewitness attestation to an event, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we have that in the
We don't.
scriptures.
We don't.
Yes, we do. You
We don't.
have.
Do you know what eyewitness means?
Yes.
Do you know how many years the gospels are written after the events have taken place?
In the time of the eyewitnesses.
No, no, they're not.
Yes,
Get your
they are.
facts right. No, they weren't.
When was Matthew written?
So the synoptic gospels were written around, I can top of my head, but between 30 to 60 years after the events, after the resurrection of Jesus, and the Gospel of John was 90 years. Even some scholars
It's
place it against.
it's not 90 years after the resurrection of Jesus.
Well, yeah,
All the
so
gospels are going to be written in between 30 and
100.
60 years.
And you said it was taken at the time of the eyewitness, so it's not
Yeah,
correct.
that's correct. What are you talking about?
What do you mean? 30 to 60 years after is eyewitnessing? No, they were just they're anonymous. The Gospels, we don't even know who wrote them.
We know who wrote them. We know exactly who wrote them.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No.
We have the disciples of the disciples who talk about who wrote these things. The eyewitnesses of them literally talk about. You also have manuscript evidence as well, that every single time you get a hold on. Every single time you get something attributed to either Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, or you have the text of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, every single time it has the correct author. Never once do you have any opposing author rise forth, which is what you would expect if the Gospels are actually going around anonymous. They're not going around anonymous. People know exactly who wrote these things.
Who wrote them then? Because Matthew, Luke, and John are just...
Matthew wrote Matthew. You're not going to believe this, but Mark, the interpreter of Peter, wrote Mark. Luke, the companion of Paul, wrote Luke. And John, the beloved disciple, wrote John. Give me 1 second. Don't say anything. Why he leave?
I didn't even notice. I looked over.
Why he
He
leave?
was a good boy. He didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. But like going down this rabbit trail, like giving the old typical arguments that you hear, it's just, yeah. I think he was kind of stuck at one point, and he just didn't know how to deal with what you were saying.
Yeah. What's up, Rafari or Rafari?
Nothing much about you.
Not much. I'm doing good, man.
Yeah, today I have a like pretty short question, I believe. Unless it like gets deep, it'll be pretty short. My question is, do you believe essential hypostatic properties exist, and what do you define them as?
What do you mean by essential hypostatic properties? I don't know what that means.
Well, Nick, for example, and God logic, they basically define it as, for example, someone can't be a father without like begetting another person. So this property of begetting another person is essential to have like this title or like this term. Like that's how
Okay,
they
well that's like analytically true. It's like So a father is going to be a relative term, which entails like a relation of opposition. So if you're a father, it entails that you have another person, whether it be a son or a daughter or whatever, but it entails that you've begot something. So it's just, that's what it means to be a father. So if that's what you
Yes,
mean
it's
by us,
definition of good.
yeah. So if that's what I wouldn't use a term like essential hypostatic property. I don't think that I would use. I haven't really heard that, but it would just be analytically true. Like that's what it means to be a father. So if you're saying
Yeah,
that you're a father, it necessarily entails that you have begotten someone.
yeah. The reason I'm asking this and also like why I'm mentioning this is because I don't believe essential hypostatic properties exist. Like when you said it's analytically true that, well, it necessitates that you need to beget another person to be called a father. Yeah, that is true, but it doesn't make it an essential hypostatic property.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I wouldn't say that.
I mean, I know what he's talking about. I would say that, but yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much my question. You
I mean,
like,
like for instance, for hypostatically, it would be essential for the son to be begotten relationally in how he proceeds from the father.
But
That would be essential to
just
his
analytically
hypostasis.
true.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more of a technical like.
I don't know
It's
if you
just
could,
categorizing the analytics of what.
but all so I mean that's the thing though, is that in all that you would say in what is essential to being God, you would apply to all three persons. Like those things would be absolute names. Those are essential names. So being
Well,
good
yeah,
or
this would be more
powerful.
so in the.
Yeah, so I mean
Well, it's
I would
not
just
so
say
much
that it's
about.
oh go ahead, my fault.
It's more so in the category of hypostasis. I'm sorry. It's more in the category of
yeah, I
hypostasis in this
understand that.
instance.
For example, like a
Not saying.
triangle, like a triangle being three-sided, like that's hypostatic, but it couldn't be called a triangle if it had four sides, right? Like I understand that it's necessary for the shape to have three sides to be considered a triangle, but it doesn't make it like an essential hypostatic property. That's why I'm asking because I was just curious if like is Elijah believed in it.
No, yeah, I mean I just wouldn't word it like that. I think what they're trying to say is that it's just analytically true. I think that's it's just a term that's
Yeah,
being used. It's just that that's what it means to be a father. So the father would not be the father if he did not beget. But you just
Yeah, but like
that's just
using
wouldn't.
that. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, that just you just wouldn't be that by definition. Like by definition, you wouldn't be a father if you have not begotten. Like, and by definition, you wouldn't be a son if you are not begotten.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you like, if someone like even considers this essential hypos, there would be then no distinction between essential hypostatic properties and just regular hypostatic properties. And let me give you an example for you like to understand.
No,
Let's say you
I
have a
get you. I understand.
okay.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. It's just analytically true. Like you don't have to say that's what the like if the hypostatic property is entailing something relational, which is all the hypostatic properties are going to do, they're going to have, especially from the Catholic side, they're going to have some type of relation of opposition, like active and passive spiration is going to be relatively opposed to one another in the sense that they entail the other. So it would just be true that if you say that you are the father, then you're saying that you are the begetter. If you say that you are a son, then you are saying that you are begotten. That's just what those terms mean, and they imply a relation of opposition, so that the son cannot be the father. There is a real distinction between those two subjects, because if you are the father, you cannot be your own son.
I would agree, but like following this, right? Um, you and I agree. Essential hypostatic properties, like this term, like doesn't isn't really applicable. It's not something, right? So I have a question about the Trinity. So basically, the question is, like, there's something either has like essential properties or hypostatic properties, right? Someone has like the nature
Hmm.
and like the hypostases. So my question is, in the Trinity, if there's two like persons who are begotten, while like one person begets them, like if if it is if it's not grounded in the essence or like in the nature, like would you say the Father could be God? Like if he wasn't a father hypothetically?
I don't know what that means. Are you saying do you have to be the Father in order to be God?
No, you obviously believe that the Son and the Holy Spirit are fully God. But I'm asking, like, could the person of the Father, could he be God without like begetting another person?
Or I don't. You say he's asking if the Father could
I
be
mean,
somebody
that's the
else. I don't. Yeah. Then you wouldn't be the Father.
question. Doesn't sound
Yeah, he wouldn't. Okay, for example, if I say Elijah, right? Like, can you give me an example of a hypostatic property? Like, for example, your hair, right?
That's an accident, but okay.
What's the distinction between accident and hypostatic property?
Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just go ahead.
It
I
doesn't
get
matter,
because
but
I'm gonna get what you're saying regardless. Because we're just gonna go down a whole nother rabbit hole. But it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Well,
basically,
hopefully
like
it
I'm
doesn't come up.
asking,
But go ahead.
I'm asking, how do I formulate this? Fuck, hold on, let me think. Yeah, I need to read a dictionary. My communication skills are genuinely trash.
You're chilling, bro.
Mine are too. It's okay.
Never mind, man. Like, if I can't even like ask the question properly, maybe I should write it down properly and ask you.
I think you were doing fine. It's just that when it got to Elijah, you kind of fumbled the bag there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So with like, say for instance, the father is necessarily begets. Like these things are like necessary. These processions are necessary. These divine processions are necessary. So I can understand why some people would say that they are essential, but they are not pertaining to like you wouldn't say those things of the essence. So like if the Father begets, then necessarily it would have to be said of the entire Trinity. No, but the processions are necessary. So that's why I was saying that like my hair is like an accident because an accident is like that a property that something has which isn't essential to what it is, right? So like the redness of a ball or something is like an accident, or my hair would be like an accident. Stuff like that, those are like accidents. Those are things that are predicated to something that's not essential to what it is, like color or stuff like that. It's not essential for me being a human for me to have hair, or to me being Elijah. I still have Elijah if I didn't have my hair, you know.
I
So
think I finally
I'm just
understood
curious,
how
like,
to
what's the other
formulate the
thing that
question. Like, can I ask it?
yeah, go ahead.
So, in short, right, and I'll try to formulate it as like good as I can. If begetting another person isn't grounded in the nature or like in the essence for someone to exist or like to be God or whatever, if it is grounded in the hypostases, why could the Father just not like have a son or like have the Holy Spirit? Why could he just not exist like on his own?
Well, yeah. So one, if you're still identifying him as the Father, it would necessarily entail that he has begotten someone, or he begets. So you're pretty much saying, why can't the Father not be the Father? And you're just like, that's kind of just going against identity. So that's essentially what you're saying. If he is the Father, then necessarily he begets. He is the Father, therefore he begets. That's just who he is the Father. Now, in regards to like the divine processions, there's a lot of arguments that goes into explaining the divine processions, and like, you know, trying to just explain the divine processions. So you can't have a world in which the Father does not beget. It's not possible. It wouldn't be the Father.
it's just essential to who God is, you know,
Look,
as a whole.
I think you understand it, but like coming from an outside perspective, it's like very hard for me to comprehend, because for example, like being human, if someone isn't like composed of human cells, then he isn't human, right? Like, because that's an essential property. But like if someone didn't have black hair, if he had like blonde hair, okay, that's a hypostatic property. Like it doesn't make him not human anymore. So it's like hard for me to understand that there's this being with one nature, but it isn't grounded in the nature. But at the same time, like it can't be otherwise. Then how is it not grounded in the nature? Do you understand, like, from where I'm coming from?
So like, for example, a hypostatic property of mine is who I am, right? So I am Elijah, right? That's a hypostatic property that's like related to my name. That's the who I am, right? So essentially you're asking like, so my hair is an accident. These things can change about me and I will still be the same who. Those aren't actual hypostatic properties, right? Those are accidents that are attributed to my nature of being a human. But the things about my who, like say for instance, who I am and how you know me is my name, my identity statement, right? Those are hypostatic properties that will not and can't change, right? There's never going to be a time where Elijah isn't Elijah, because that's who I am. Now, for Elijah to be Elijah, this is just the law of identity. For Elijah to be Elijah, he would have to be Elijah. Like you can't be anyone else and be Elijah. Right. So if the Father is the Father, right, then necessarily what that entails, because the Father is the relational term and it entails a relation of opposition, it necessarily entails, or it's definitionally true, that he begets. That's the identity statement that's being made when you're saying that you are the Father or he is the Father. So you're asking pretty much, hey, Elijah, why can't you be someone else? And that's who I am. I'm necessarily Elijah, or not necessarily, but you know what I mean by necessarily.
Yeah, like you have the Elijah identity, but like your accidents can change. Is that like what you mean?
Yeah. So if the divine processions are not accidents, then they can't change.
Well, the thing is, like, for example, you said regardless of what you do, you still have like the identity of Elijah. But the thing is, like, the title father would only apply if he like begets another person. Like, if he didn't, then it couldn't apply anymore. So, like, why can't the person of the father, like, why can't he just not be a father? Like,
Yeah.
what
So
necessity?
because all right, because so there's a lot of different arguments for this. I could give you some things to read, but because the Father necessarily knows himself, right, then the
Yeah.
Son necessarily comes forth. So you have like the knower and the thing that is known. So like that's what like the word is. So when you say that the Son is the word, it's like the knower, which is the Father, and that which is known. And when the Father necessarily knows himself perfectly, he from him proceeds the image of him, of that which is known, which is the perfect image of him, which is different or distinct from him. So you have the knower and that which is known. So that image proceeds from him because the Father necessarily knows himself. You don't have a world in which the
Matthew
Father
11:27 actually.
Yeah, you don't have a world in which the Father
No,
does
no,
not.
you actually, yeah.
The thing is, I understand.
There's a lag. I'm sorry. There's a lag in the stream.
Like,
That's my fault. No, you actually articulated very well. Like Matthew 11:27 kind of talks about this, where Jesus says that the Father knows the Son, like in a way that nobody else can, and vice versa, that the Son knows the Father in no other way that anybody
the
else
thing
can.
is, like, okay, I understand what you're saying. You're saying like for God, like God knowing Himself, like this argument. I think I've heard it before, but like my question is, why, when God knows Himself, like what forcefully or like necessarily creates or causes this other person? Like, why can't He just know Himself without creating like this other person?
Because for knowledge, you
It's
have.
not a creation.
Yeah, it's not a creation. But for like knowledge is also going to be relational as well. Because you have the relation between the knower or that which knows and the thing that is known. So necessarily it's going to entail some relation between two different things. But in this instance is going to be persons. So you have that which knows and that which is known. When the Father perfectly knows himself, he creates, or from him proceeds an image of himself that perfectly encapsulates all that he is, being God. Right? So you have that which knows himself and that which he knows, which is himself, which proceeds from him, this image. This is what, I mean, the fathers talk about it like all the time. If you,
Okay, for example, would you say that? Sorry for interrupting. Please continue.
nah, like if you want something to read about it, we could give you stuff to read about it too.
No, like not necessarily read, but for example, in the Gospels, right? I think it mentions like the right hand of the Father, right?
Yeah. Not
Yeah.
the,
So
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. So for example, my question is, if like, could I not make this argument about anything? Like for example, if I asked you, okay, God can't see. God has a right hand and he sees everything, so he sees himself. Could this not create a perfect image of himself? Like, why? Like, why can't it just be that? Why must it, like, it's hard to formulate, man.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time
Well, it
understanding.
seems like, well, I mean, it seems like your question is like it's assuming that God, at least the way that you're looking at our position, that God like made Jesus in some sort of way, and that it has to be that way. We don't believe that like it's essential for the Son to be there because that's how
I
God
know you
revealed him.
don't believe that
When it
Jesus is,
comes
like,
to
created or caused, but, like, he's begotten. But, like, why couldn't the Father just cut off, like, the beginning? Like, for
No,
example, if I
because
have, like, a light bulb,
it's not, so
because
that
it's
like
yeah,
it's
but
essential,
for
it's not
impossible.
something
It's,
that you can do.
it's impossible. So like when you say that God, and this is what Saint John of Damascus says, but when you say that God has a word, right, or that he has intellect, right?
Mhm.
When you're saying this, it is going to entail, or is going to entail that this intellect conceives a word or that which is going to reveal. So like I'm trying to figure out how to condescend. So when you say that God has a word and that he's not like wordless or a thing, then necessarily God having intellect and God having a word, you're going to have these processions. It seems like you are presupposing that the processions are choices made by God freely, like his choice to create. And that's not the case at all. And that's not how any of the fathers articulate it. So it is the necessary procession of God being who he is, or the Father being who he is, right? That in having an intellect and having a word, or, from the intellect generates the word, that these processions come forth. And in loving himself, that the generation of the Spirit. And it goes into like why it's different from our concept of a word and everything.
Hold on, let me.
What's the name?
It's basically essential.
Yeah. Well,
It's
when
essential.
you're saying essential, you'd be talking about the things of the essence normally. But when Garrigou Lagrange actually talks about this as well, in like a quick chapter, if you want to read about that too. Further, this procession of the only begotten Son is rightly called generation. The living thing, born of a living thing, receives a nature like that of its begetter, its generator. In the deity, the Son. Here, I'll put it on the screen. I'm
By the way,
actually
what's that background on your, like, screen?
where? Oh, the black thing.
No, no, like when you put the page up, like in the background, it looks like a PlayStation 5 or like 4 background.
Oh, yeah. It's just a background.
Is that like standard or did you like
Nah, yeah, I put it there.
looks pretty cool, man.
Thank you. What's the name? Common speech says, God, dog. Shoot, I don't know. My fault. Okay, so it
It's a
says
simple
common speech
statement.
says that our intellect conceives a word. This act of conception is the initial formation of a living thing, but this conception of ours does not become generation because our word is not a substance, but an accident. So that even when man mentally conceives his own substantial self, that conception is still but an accidental similitude of himself, whereas the divine conception, the divine word, is substantial, not merely a similitude of God, but is God. Divine conception then is rightly called generation. Intellectual conception, purified of all imperfection, is an intellectual generation, just as corporeal conception terminates in corporeal generation. And then he goes on to the spirit. But I mean, I hope that kind of like answers your question. But it is like when God knows himself, or when the Father knows himself perfectly, it generates the word. And this is different from us generating. This is catholiclibrary.org. But it's different from us generating a word in ourselves, because our word is accidental and it's imperfect. But when this concept of yourself is removed of all perfections, right, it would quote unquote produce a substance that is you, and you would know yourself perfectly, but it would not be other than you, in the sense that it's a different nature than you. That's the intellectual generation, and why Jesus is called the Word, the mind, the wisdom of God. That's why he's called those things.
I guess that makes sense, but like for a moment I had like a memory recall where I was reading Ignatius of Antioch. Um, and you said that it's not like, for example, God doesn't need to create, like it's like an act of will, or like he just wants it, right? Like, but the Son being begotten, it's like not a choice or whatever. But I believe it's the letter to the Magnesians or like
Hmm.
Ephesians, I'm not sure, where Ignatius of Antioch basically said, and when I read this, I was kind of like, what? He said the Son is like the will of the Father, or like he's created, begotten by the will of the Father,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, so well, Ignatius doesn't say he's created by the will of the
Sorry,
Father.
not created, begotten.
Yeah, so when it says that it's of the necessary will, so like especially from the Catholic perspective, the way in which you would understand God's will is there's one will, and God necessarily has a will, but there's things that God necessarily wills, and there's things that God freely wills, right? So God freely wills creation. He necessarily wills himself, right? He necessarily wills the good. Like these things would go contrary to his nature if he didn't do those things. So when God necessarily wills himself, you have the divine processions. And there's no point in time in which God does not necessarily, because he necessarily wills himself, there's no point in time in which the processions come into existence like creation does. So there's
So,
acts of the necessary will and there's acts of the free will. So that's what would be meant by Ignatius's statement.
so you wouldn't say that Ignatius's statement is like inherently wrong, right?
No, it just has to be understood properly.
Hold on, like for a matter of fact, let me real quick get the quote.
Yeah, can you?
Yeah, I think it was letter to the Magnesians.
Let's see.
By the way, I was reading Ignatius of Antioch because I wanted to learn like the Christian theology from like the beginning,
Hmm.
but the guy's only like talking about how humble like his friends are, or like how like about the church in Corinth. Like he's
Yeah.
very. It isn't like I thought it was.
I mean, of course. I mean, not everything's gonna deal with theology proper and all
Yeah.
that stuff. They have actual like uh, issues that they're dealing with in real time that they want to address or talk about.
Yeah, get the quote if you can. Because Ignatius constantly says in the epistle to the Ephesians that Christ is God. Like he starts it out like that.
Hold on, I think I got the quote.
Okay.
I think, hold on. Hold on, I'm reading it.
Okay.
Hold on, no, I didn't find it. Fuck. Hold on.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know if he said that, but he I know that Ignatius I know Ignatius he constantly says that Christ is God. Right? So I know he doesn't say that like he's after the free will of the Father. He starts it out like that. Like his epistle to the Ephesians.
In the epistle to the Ephesians, does he believe that Jesus is God?
Yeah. So in being united and elected to the true passion by the will of the Father and Jesus Christ our God. That's the greeting. Chapter 1, being followers of God and stirring up yourselves by the blood of God. Right, so
Okay, but
and then he goes on to talk about, like in chapter 3, he talks about how they have the same will. I have taken therefore upon me to exhort you that you will all run together in accordance with the will of God, for even Jesus Christ, our inseparable life, is the manifested will of the Father, as also bishops settled everywhere to the utmost bounds of the earth are also by the will of Jesus Christ, or are so by the will of Jesus Christ. So they have the same will. Like he's not different from God. He's not apart from the Father.
oh, I think I found it. It's okay. In Magnesians chapter 6 verse 1, it says Jesus Christ was begotten by the Father before the ages, but was manifested at the end of time. And in the longer recension, it says Jesus Christ was with the Father before the beginning of time, and in the end was made manifest, God word, the only begotten Son, by his will.
Yeah.
And it says here the shorter Greek recension just says Jesus Christ was begotten by the will of the Father.
Okay, yeah. So here you say Epistle to the Magnesians, chapter 6.
Yeah, I think like the thing with the will is like also found in manuscripts, but I don't think it's like as
Since
authentic. Like
therefore I have the persons. So I have the Epistle to the Magnesians, chapter 6. Since therefore I have in the persons before mentioned beheld the whole multitude of you in faith and love, I exhort you to study and do all things with divine harmony, while your bishops presides in a place of God and your presbyters in a place of the assembly of the apostles. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'll try to zoom in a little bit more. Of your apostles, along with your deacons, who are most dear to me and entrusted with the ministry of Jesus Christ, who was with the Father before the beginning of time and in the end was revealed. Do all then, imitating the same divine conduct, pay respect to one another, and let no one look upon his neighbor after the flesh, but continually love each other in Jesus Christ. Let nothing exist among you that may divide you, but be united with your bishop and those who preside over you as a type of evidence of your immortality. I mean, it just doesn't say.
yeah,
Doesn't say the other part.
the other yeah,
What other?
longer recension, though it is less reliable, like textually.
Where can I find it?
Hold on, 1 second.
Okay, so that's the same thing. Maybe Lightfoot.
I don't think they include it because it's like I said, like less reliable textually. But hold on.
I mean, that's usually
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not. I've gone to 3 different sources. I'm not seeing it.
Hold on, give me 1 second, bro.
Yeah.
I don't remember on which like website I read it, but it definitely said like by the will. Hold on.
I mean, I went to 4 different places. I haven't seen it.
To be fair, the website I read it on was like looked pretty sketchy. Probably written by some Aryans, and I believe it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna translate the Greek real quick. Yeah.
Man, what website? I know you didn't. What in the world?
What, the website that I was just on with the Greek?
Wait, no. When you were reading those quotes about Ignatius and stuff.
When I was reading those quotes, which one?
No. You were quoting from the Ephesians and stuff.
Oh, that was New Advent.
Oh, okay.
I read it before, so I had some of the things highlighted.
Okay.
Yeah, watching Sig stuff and how he be highlighting stuff. I was like, I gotta get that same thing, right? That stuff is tough.
Sig?
Hmm.
Do you mean like the guy in like the UK, Sig?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you see the debate between him and Agan?
I saw a replay. I didn't see it live.
I seen clips.
Dude, it was genuinely like, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have like understand half of what they were saying, but the other half, which I did understand, was genuinely so entertaining. Dude, I recommend that you watch it.
I only seen one clip. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that quote though. Everything that we've read from Ignatius so far is 110% orthodox. And knowing, I would just read Ignatius in context. Like, say for instance, if you were able to find it, then you would just read him in context, and you see that Ignatius obviously has a firm understanding that Jesus Christ is God. He very clearly believes that Christ is God. So like, obviously he's not going to believe that Christ is a creature if he believes that he's God.
He says that he's not made in chapter 7 of, what is that, the Ephesians?
The epistle to the Ephesians?
The epistle to Ephesians in chapter 7, he says that he's not made. He says there's
probably
person who is possessed both of flesh and spirit, both made and not made.
Yeah.
God existing in flesh.
Yeah. True life. And he goes off.
He keeps going. If you go to chapter 18, there's another one.
Yeah, there's one physician who is possessed both of flesh and spirit, both made and not made, God existing in flesh, true life and death, both of Mary and of God, first passible, then impassible, even Jesus Christ our Lord.
What is that tool you're using to highlight?
Let me see. It's just called a highlighter.
Oh.
So like I have a highlighter extension, and then you download it for free, and then like whatever, you just right click it, and then you could click highlight, and it'd be saving it.
That's so cool.
So when you go back, yeah. If you on a Mac, there's another one that I have. It's called like Super Highlighter or something. The same thing.
Yeah,
Do the
that's
same
what.
thing.
Yeah, that's what I found. It's super simple highlighted.
Yeah, same thing. Color's a little bit different, but it do the same thing. But all right, does that answer your questions, man?
Yeah. Hold on. No way. Hold on. 1 second, bro.
Did Jonah die in the well? Yeah.
Oh my, dude. I just realized I'm the biggest idiot ever. I was reading the epistle to the Smyrnians, or however they're called,
Mm-hmm.
and I mixed up the passage where it says that he was like born from the Virgin by the will of God. Like I was reading a
Oh.
lot that day, and I misread that with like being begotten.
Oh,
My
okay.
bad.
Okay. No, it's all good, bro. It's all good. It's all good. Nah.
No, that's crazy.
Alright, I'm finna get ready to wind down, man. God bless you. Please, bro. You asking so many questions. You reading the fathers, bro. I think you getting closer and closer. I pray you really do come to Christianity, man. We'd love to
I
have you over
appreciate
here.
love, man.
God bless you, man.
God bless you too. Have a great day, bro.
You too. What does it show this? So if you go to the book of Jonah,
Chapter 2.
chapter 2, yeah.
I like Sheol. Sheol. What are you about to do? Play games or something?
Dang, bro. Why you say it like that?
Because I be seeing you. It says Elijah's playing. What's that game called?
Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, dang, this Joker been on here for 2 hours.
So it says, then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called out to the Lord out of my distress. He answered me out of the belly of Sheol. I cried. Right. So obviously Sheol. We'll just do this. So you see that Sheol is like the underworld, like Hades. He speaks to him from the realm of the dead. That's what Sheol is. He speaks to him from the realm of the dead. Like from the grave. Right? That's what Sheol is. So when he speaks to him, yeah, he says it a lot, right?
He says it throughout the chapter.
Yeah, he says it. That's not just the first time. He says it a lot. That he cries out from the belly of Sheol, for you cast me into the deep. This is another word that was used in order to talk about death in the realm of the dead. Yeah. So Gabriel asked a fantastic question on YouTube. If you guys please subscribe on YouTube. The channel name is down here. But he said, on the model where God knows himself to generate the word, I've always wondered why the word doesn't also generate a word, and so on ad infinitum. Do you know if that's addressed? Yeah, it's addressed a couple of times. So I know St. Thomas Aquinas talks about it. But so you have the generation of the word from the act of the intellect, and then the generation of the spirit of the act of the will. So there's only going to be one act of the intellect. For the generation of the word is from the act of the one intellect. So the word doesn't have his own act. They don't have separate acts, right? It's only one act. So Christ doesn't have his own separate act of the intellect. He doesn't have a separate intellect from the Father or anything like that. So you wouldn't have a generation of the word, or another generation of another word or anything like that. There's only one act of the intellect, one act of the will. So you have the divine processions from that. Let me know if that makes sense. W Abrahamos and St. Thomas Aquinas, and people telling me to read like Jordan Travis. Why am I not Christian? Because I am convinced it is untrue And and also I wouldn't worship God even if it were true, because I don't have that desire. Hey, bro. Like, that's on you. Okay, you think you get it? Okay, all right. So the procession of the word is of the act of God knowing himself perfectly, right? That's what we were talking about. So God knows himself perfectly, and it generates the Son, right? And the word proceeds from him in the act of the intellect. Now, the word doesn't have separate actions. So the word doesn't have his own act of intellect. No, he doesn't have his own intellect. He has the same mind, the same act as the Father. They are united in essence. If he had another principle of action, that would mean that he had another essence, but he doesn't have another essence, so he doesn't have another principle of action. So there's only one act of the intellect. That act of the intellect generates the Son. The Son does not have a separate act of intellect, therefore it would not be another generation of the Son. Let me know if that makes it more clear. Please let me know. Please stop slurring. It's hard to understand. What?
No.
Wouldn't being in a whale's belly be considered the realm of the dead, as it would normally mean death? No. But he does die. He talks about it all the time, which is why his prayer in chapter 2 is, that's what it's all about. It's about how God heard him even in death and then saves him from death. Hold on, is that my God brother? Yeah. Zach, did I miss your birthday? Or is it on the, for some reason I feel like it's on the 7th? But I feel like somebody told me it was on the 1st. And I can't remember. Please let me know. Please let me know. It's next month. Yeah, it is October. My fault, bro. I'm bugging. I've missed somebody's birthday. I know I did. I'm bugging.
You know, it's okay because my brother missed my birthday a few days ago. He did. He
Bro,
still
happy birthday.
Thank you, bro. You see, I don't know what. Yeah, I think you got me by like a few years. I'm 26.
You 26?
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
You say you think I got you by a few years? My days. I gotta stop going live, bro. I gotta stop going live.
No, it's okay because my brother, he still hasn't like said, "Hey, happy birthday." You know, and I be texting this man. I still text this man to see if he's gonna say anything. He didn't say that.
Hey, hold on. Jordan, your comment didn't it didn't load up. I didn't even see it. I don't think anybody saw it. Somebody must have those words somebody must have those words muted. All right, 2 hours 35 minutes. Is that good? Is that cool to go?
Oh, that's fine.
I would love to answer the question. I'm always glad to have respectful conversations like this. All right, last one. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, thank you for calling me up. So, you just want me to go ahead and take a stab at answering the question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I am not Christian because I do not see compelling evidence to warrant belief in Christian dogma, and that's basically all it is. No other reason.
So what are you, agnostic, atheist, Muslim?
I'm an agnostic atheist.
All right. I mean, okay. So do you not think that there's any good arguments for the existence of God?
I do not. I've entertained quite a few, but I find them all to come up lacking. But that's just how the conclusion I arrive at. I understand others hear the arguments and find them compelling, and that's fine. That's okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
What problem do you have with the argument from motion?
The argument from motion, the Thomas Aquinas, the 5 ways.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that it comes down to with the cause and effect ones, that essentially we're committing special pleading by suggesting that this prime mover doesn't have to follow the rules of everything else.
No. So we would say that, like, in the argument for motion, we would just say that for a thing to be changed, it means that a potential is being actualized. So I don't understand how we would be special pleading saying that he doesn't follow those rules, because we wouldn't say that the first mover has potential.
Okay, hang on. Walk me through that again. So the
You want me to
prime
walk
mover,
you through the
first
argument for
mover-
motion?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, no, oh, sure, maybe for the folks, yeah, for my benefit too, just walk me through it one more time to make sure I understand exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, so change exists, and by change we mean the actualization of potential.
I agree.
Okay. But a potential cannot actualize itself. Only something already actual can bring about actuality. Therefore, whatever changes is actualized by something else.
I think that seems to be all we've observed within our universe, yes.
Okay. This leads to a chain of actualizers, each depending on something else to cause its change in the here and now. An infinite chain of such actualizers is impossible, because without a first actualizer, nothing could be actualized. But change does occur, so the chain must terminate in a first actualizer.
I thank you for articulating that. That makes sense, and I do see the logic behind it. But I guess my objection would be, oh, I'm sorry, go on.
Oh, well, I mean, the end of it is just going to be this first actualizer must have no potential. It is purely actual. A being that is a pure actuality is what we mean by God. Therefore, God exists. That's it.
Okay. Thank you for articulating that. My objection would be that we have to commit special pleading there, because we're saying everything other than the first thing has to be actualized in order for it to do anything.
No, we're saying
so
that
my response would be,
we're saying that whatever changes is actualized by something else. We would not say that the first mover changes. It does not.
So presumably there was a state of being in the first mover's existence where the universe didn't exist, and then the first mover changed and decided to create the universe. What caused that change in the first mover?
No, so we would say that that's a change in the universe, not a change in the creator.
I'm not sure that I'm following. Did the creator at any point decide to create the universe?
That's not a change in the creator. That's a change in the creation. It's called a Cambridge change, or a change external to something.
So what led to the first mover deciding to start the first movement?
So when here, because I think this is a confusing thing. So when we say the first mover, movement just means moving just means the movement from potential to actual, the reduction of potency to act. That's what movement is. So, like, you could believe whatever you want about the universe, because you can't prove from pure reason that the universe is not eternal. So it's about what sustains all that exists right now, rather than a first event that started something in the past. It's like, oh, my mic is sitting 3 feet above the ground, and that's being actualized by the desk, and that's being actualized by the legs, and that's being actualized by the floor, right? So it's about what's actualizing the potential right now for things to sustain their existence.
I don't see why a first mover is necessary for that. I think that we
Okay.
can go back to the beginning of time and say that that is when things began, because it really there was no time before the universe. So the universe has existed as long as time has been passing.
That's fine. So even if you're saying that you could go back to the beginning of the universe, you're still saying that this chain of actualizers is finite. And you're saying that it terminates in the first. And you're saying that that first is the beginning of the universe. Now, there's a reason as to why the beginning or the universe wouldn't be sufficient to be this first actualizer.
Why is that?
Because the first actualizer doesn't have any potential. It is purely actual, which means that it does not there's no change, it's not composed, it's not made of parts, it's not material. The universe fits all of those descriptions, therefore it wouldn't be the first mover. It's not purely actual.
Well, we can't really comment on what the universe was like at the Planck time because we can't study that. So to suggest that it couldn't have actualized itself is to suggest that we understand enough about T
That's
equals
just a
0,
contradiction.
and we just don't.
That's just I think actualizing itself is a contradiction. Like a potency actualizing itself is a contradiction.
That's fine to hold that opinion, but
It's not an opinion,
to be
it's
humble
just-
about it, we have to.
It's not an opinion, it's just
It
a
is,
fact.
and that's okay.
It
Well,
wouldn't be
and then
potent, and it wouldn't be potent by definition if it could actualize itself.
Yeah, that's not an opinion. Like,
it
do you
wouldn't
believe
be
in
potent by definition.
do you believe in contradictions? Like, do you think that
I don't believe that in our current presentation of the universe. I believe in the law of non-contradiction in the universe that we experience. Yes.
Okay, cool. So if you're saying that a thing is in potential, then it can't actualize itself. You already agreed to that too.
Mm-hmm. I agree to that within the bounds of the current presentation of the universe. I would not agree to that with respect to the state of the universe at t equals 0 because we can't study it.
Okay, so you're saying that as of right now, you have faith in something that you do not have evidence for, nor have never seen or experienced.
No, I don't believe I said that.
That's essentially what you're getting to. You're saying that as of right now, I'm not going to use my experience and what I can logically conclude. Instead, I'm going to have faith, or I'm going to reserve some space for this thing that I have no knowledge of, nor have never seen or experienced.
I would say that I am humble enough to admit that I don't know how the universe kicked off. Would you agree? Are you humble enough to admit that too?
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the argument. We're not talking about how the universe kicked off. I don't care how the universe kicked off. It means nothing to the argument.
I thought the argument was all about how the universe kicked off, that there was a prime mover.
No.
Oh, well, I must be misunderstanding. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was trying to. You remember when I gave the analogy of how my mic is sitting 3 feet, and that relies on my
Yes.
desk, and then that relies on the legs, and
Yes.
that yeah. So we're talking about what sustains, what actualizes potential right now in the here and now.
The things that came before it.
In a ontological dependency. Sure. Like, so when you're saying the things that come before it, you're saying that the mic sits 3 feet above the ground because the desk sits beneath it, or it's prior to it, and that sits up because of the legs that's beneath it, and that sits up because of the floor that's beneath it, right? Each thing depends on the thing prior to it right now. That's the reason why its potential is being actualized. This can't go on
Yes,
forever.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so this can't go on forever.
Well, again, you say that, but we can't demonstrate that statement to be true.
We can. So in a per se causal series, which is the causal series that we're talking about, each member receives its actualization right now from the member before it. If there is no first member with causal power in itself, then no member in the series will have causal power. Therefore, if a per se causal series had no first member, then no member of the series will have causal power. But what we see is that in a per se causal...
what is the first... I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. So, if a per se causal series had no first member, then no member of the series will have causal power. But what we see is that some members do have causal power. Therefore, a per se causal series can't regress infinitely, but has to terminate in a first that has causal power in itself.
And what's wrong with calling that the universe?
This being is purely actual, which means that it doesn't have any potential. It's not itself caused or changed by anything else. If this thing does not have any potential, then it is not material. Because if it were material, then it would be composed of form and matter, which entails potentiality. It can grow, it can change, parts can be arranged. But this first mover, this purely actual being, does not have any potential, so it is immaterial.
And how did we determine that universes can't emerge from situations like that?
Universes can emerge from what?
From whatever situation existed at t=0 in our universe.
It has nothing to do. If you're saying that the universe emerged from something, great. You just asked about how we know that the universe is not this purely actual being. That's how we know.
I don't know that it's a being. I'm not sure why it has to be a being.
When you say being, when you're saying
can cause things, and
when you're saying being, you're just saying that it exists. It has some existence.
I see. Okay, so we don't mean like an agent, like a thinking being. We just mean something that exists.
I mean, so far we could go to show that it has intellect.
Well, I mean, before we get to that point, I think we need to establish how we were able to conclude what the properties of the universe were at the moment of instantiation when this causal chain began. Perhaps I'm not saying I believe this to be the case because I have no evidence for it, but it is a hypothesis that universes pop in and out of existence all the time.
That's fantastic.
I'm not saying I believe that. There's no evidence for it, but I'm saying that is a working model that gets us to that answers your question of
it doesn't. It doesn't.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't, because those universes popping in and out of existence would still rely on some framework that allows for such popping in and out of existence to happen. So it would just be a part.
How do we know that universes need a cause to pop in and out of existence?
Because you're saying that it goes from potentially, like, being the way it is to actually being the way it is, meaning it changes. But a potential can't actualize itself. Only something actual can bring about actuality. Therefore, whatever changes, right, is actualized by something else. That's how we would know. That's what you already agreed to.
We're applying. We are. I agreed. That's what takes place in our universe. We are applying the laws within our universe to things that are outside of our universe. So that those laws may not exist outside of our universe. We seem to. I get why it's counterintuitive. I understand why the idea of the laws that are true here must be true outside of here, but we don't know that to be the case. So to assert that to be the case without any evidence seems like quite a leap to me.
Do you have evidence for the multiverse?
I don't, but I also don't claim to. I don't believe that the multiverse is a definite thing. I think it's one hypothesis amongst many.
Okay, so why are we talking about the multiverse if you don't even believe in it?
Because it's one hypothesis that gets us to the present day without needing God.
No, it doesn't. You would just have a whole nother thing that's in the chain. You're saying that, oh, these multiverses sustain, or this universe sustains that universe. It's still in the chain.
I agree. I agree that even if that were the case, that there was something.
They would still be getting actualized and receiving actualization. It would have to
sure, so
either
you would
way.
Say if there's multiverse, then where did that come from? And then where did that come from? And where did that come from?
Yeah,
and
so it would just be kicking the can down the road. But we know that this can't go on infinitely. So whatever it terminates in, this first actualizer is a being that is purely actual.
I don't. Okay, I can go with that. I don't know that I would call that being God. I would say that I would call that being the state of the cosmos prior to the advent of our universe, if such a thought is even intelligible. But I
Okay.
don't see why
So
we call that God.
this state of whatever you just said is immutable, it's eternal, it's immaterial, it's incorporeal, it's perfect, it's good, it's omnipotent, it's all knowing as well.
I don't have any reason to believe most of that. I don't remember every quality you just listed, but I think that a lot of those are value judgments that are based on people's general understandings and opinions.
Let's see if you disagree with the premise then. So this thing that is purely actual, whatever you want to call it, if there were to exist more than one, then they would have to differ by some feature, but two things that differ, one must have what the other lacks, which implies some unactualized potential. But this purely actual actualizer has no unactualized potential, therefore there cannot be more than one purely actual actualizer, therefore there's only one. If the purely actual actualizer could change, it would go from potential to actual in some respect, but it doesn't have any potential, therefore it cannot change. Therefore, it's immutable. Whatever changes exists in time, since time is a measurement of change. Since the purely actual actualizer is immutable, therefore it is eternal. It's outside of time. If it were
I disagree with that assessment. I'm going to interrupt you there because I don't think
cool,
that whatever this entity or object or whatever you want, being, whatever you want to call it, I don't think that the concept of time necessarily applies to it because time is a property of our universe.
cool. So it's outside of that.
Outside of that, for colloquialism, sure, we'll go with outside of that. I would say that it's a completely irrelevant concept.
It's not subject. Yeah, it's not
time,
subject. Yeah, exactly. It's not subject to it. So it's eternal. It has no beginning, no end.
Okay.
All right.
So it's outside of time, this entity. So does this entity exist?
Yes. We just proved that it exists.
But existence necessitates a time value, doesn't it? If something exists for no amount of time, if it exists outside of time, does it really exist?
Yes, it necessarily exists.
How can something exist for no amount of time?
Because it necessarily exists.
It sounds like we're sort of trying to define God into existence. We're trying to say, well, of course God exists, because if he didn't exist, he wouldn't be God. And that really isn't. I mean, that it's not that there's no hole in that claim. It's just a weird thing to say, I suppose.
So do you know what actuality is?
Explain it to me just to make sure.
Yeah, so actuality is going to be the is of a thing, right? So it's going to be talking about like the existence of a thing. So when I say that this like a pot of water has the potential to be hot, right? And that's different from when it's actually hot. I'm saying that it's different from what it actually is or how it actually exists. So when you say that a being is purely actual, you are also saying that it is like pure existence that grants and sustains existence to all that exists right now. That's what the purely actual being is. So all that exists, right, gets its existence from this purely actual being. So this purely actual being necessarily exists.
So it seems like we're getting back to special pleading because we're saying there must be a bottom to this stack of turtles, and you're calling the bottom of the stack of turtles God, and I'm just saying we don't know what it was. We have no evidence.
Well, I'm giving logical arguments to go to show that what Christians mean by God is exactly what this purely actual being is. So far we've gotten that it's only one, that it's immutable, it's eternal. We went over the fact that it's immaterial and incorporeal. Now, do you want to keep going?
Sure, continue. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm curious to see what I know you rattled off a lot there, and I'd like to hear the rest of them.
To be imperfect is to have a privation or a lack of actuality that ought to be present, but the purely actual actualizer has no unactualized potential, so it has no privation, therefore it is perfect. To be less than fully good is to fall short of some actuality due to privation, but the purely actual actualizer has no privation, therefore it is fully good. Power is the capacity to actualize true potentials. Power is the...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, power is the capacity to actualize true potentials. All actualized potentials are either actualized by the purely actual actualizer or by chains that terminate in it. So all power ultimately derives from it. To be the source of all power is what it means to be omnipotent. Therefore, the purely actual actualizer is omnipotent. Whatever. And then, do you want to keep going? Because then we could get to intellect.
I'd sort of like to ask about perfection. It seems like you're using an interesting definition of the idea. I would have thought that goodness and perfection is dependent on the observer. How are we defining it in such a way that there is objective goodness?
Yeah, so I don't know why you would say that it's dependent upon the observer, but to be perfect means that you don't lack some actuality that ought to be present. So for example, if I had the potential to be born with 5 fingers and instead I was born without a hand, right? I didn't come out perfect because there's a lack of some actuality that ought to be present. But a baby that's born with 5 fingers, 5 toes, woo wah, they came out perfect as was intended. That's they're not lacking anything. So for the purely actual actualizer, he doesn't have any privations because privation is a lack of some actuality that ought to be present. Therefore, he's perfect since he doesn't lack anything.
I think that's where we're getting hung up because who is it that decides what this entity must or ought to be like?
Yeah, so it would just logically follow that if it is purely actual, then he's not lacking anything. That's it.
Well, I mean, I think that lacking is a subjective term. Perhaps you would look at this being and say he's perfect and isn't lacking, and I might look at this exact same being and say he's significantly lacking. So how do we determine which of us is correct in terms of whether or not the being's perfect?
Yeah, so your subjective opinion wouldn't change the nature or the truth of this thing. So if we can logically deduce that this being exists and this being doesn't lack anything, your opinion doesn't matter. Because
Okay, so I can logically deduce that the universe pre the Planck time was perfect and didn't need any type of agent to set it into motion because it wasn't lacking anything.
okay, so then you have to give a justification as to why you believe that. You'd have to demonstrate as to why that's logical.
Well, to be frank, I actually don't know, and I think that that's the most honest answer is to admit that we don't have good reasons to determine all of these things, and
So
at
you
most
just
all we can do is
that's
go ahead, I'm sorry.
not no it's not at most. So I'm giving you a logical argument that follows and goes to a conclusion, a logical conclusion, and you're trying to get away from the conclusion by importing things that you don't even really believe just because you don't want to believe in God. Now, I'd rather you say, hey, I don't want to believe in God. Can you let me go? And I would just let you go.
No, it's not a matter of want. It's that I don't believe in God. There isn't. It's belief isn't something I can.
Why don't you believe in
want
God?
or not want? Because I do not see sufficient evidence to. It's the same reason I don't believe in the multiverse because there isn't sufficient evidence to arrive at that conclusion yet.
Would a
Maybe there
logical
will be someday.
would a logical argument be sufficient evidence?
If all of the premises were sound and valid, yes, it would. But you said a number of things that didn't seem to quite work for me, like describing this thing as perfect, when perfect is pretty clearly a subjective term where the observer decides this thing is perfect. It's not lacking anything. You might look at a car and say it's perfect. It doesn't lack anything. And I might say it's lacking power windows. It's not perfect. So, how do we determine what perfect looks like? You have your opinion of what that perfect would be, and I have mine, and we both have a subjective opinion. Neither one of us can defend it.
No,
So,
it's not about my
there.
opinion. I'm not giving you my opinion that this thing is perfect. I'm saying that if you do not lack anything, then you are perfect.
If you do not lack anything, then you are perfect. I would have to think a lot on that because I don't. I mean, it sounds right, but it doesn't. The words we're using have meaning. Things like perfect and lacking, they have common usage. And in our common parlance, I don't know that I would be able to grant that as you stated it.
So do you have another definition for perfect?
No, I mean, and I think that I think perfect is usually an adjective we use to describe something we think that doesn't have any room for improvement. That's usually how it's used. But again, that's a judgment call, because I might say my pizza is perfect and you might say it's not. So neither one of us can prove it.
So to be perfect means that there's no room for improvement because it's not lacking anything.
Right. Yeah, my pizza has all the toppings on it that I could ever want. It's not lacking anything, but then you see it and say it doesn't have olives.
But that doesn't matter. We're not talking about that. We're just saying that that's what perfect means. To be complete, to be absolute, to not lack anything. That's what it means to be perfect.
So what constitutes a perfect pizza?
Bro, I don't, if it was hand delivered to you by the Ninja Turtles, I don't care what constitutes the perfect pizza. I'm talking about perfect. And perfect just means that you don't lack anything. That's it.
And how do we know what things form up the totality of what can and cannot be lacked? How would we know perfect if we saw it?
So things that have substance, if God lacks that which actually has substance, or a thing lacks that which actually has substance, then it would not be perfect. It would be imperfect in respect to something.
Does God have the ability to do evil?
No, evil isn't a thing. That's a privation of good.
Okay, so God's lacking that. He's lacking the ability to do something. It sounds like he's not perfect.
Do you lack the ability to grape women? Or do you lack the will to grape women?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I lack the desire to. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a limitation on you.
Okay, but we just established that something that's perfect is lacking nothing, but then we also said it's lacking some things.
Evil
like
isn't
bad things.
No, evil isn't it doesn't have substance. It's a privation.
Okay, so it's sort of like darkness isn't a thing, it's just the absence of light, something like that?
Yes.
It would fall into the potential category.
Yeah. So,
all right. Okay. So I think I understand where you're going with all that. So let's grant for the sake of argument that this entity exists and it set the universe into motion. And we'll, you call that deism or whatever.
You can believe that the universe is eternal. It doesn't affect the argument. Whatever you believe about the beginning of the universe does not change this argument.
Okay. All right. So I would be willing to grant that just for the sake of hearing the additional, because obviously I think you would agree that there's still another step to get from the first mover, the prime mover to, Jesus. So you want? I mean, if you'd like, I'd love to hear how we get there.
I'm glad that now you see that there is this purely actualizer that exists. We could go on to intellect real quick, because if the being has intellect, then it's in.
I'm gonna respectfully ask that you please don't do that, because I did not say that I accept that. Please don't put words in my mouth. I haven't done that to you, and I'm gonna ask you, please don't do it to me.
So my fault. I was assuming that you came up here for a respectful and honest conversation. I presented to you a logical argument that is following to conclusions that you have not objected to any of the premises, which means that the conclusion necessarily follows. Any honest and respectful guest is going to just follow the logic where it goes. So that's why I'm saying that if we got past that this purely actualizer exists, and a purely actualizer is what we mean by God, therefore God exists. You said, fine, I can say that, but I'm just going to call it the whatever advent to the beginning of the universe. That's what you said that you was going to call it. I said, now we're going to go through the attributes of whatever you want to call it. That's what you said. So I said that, okay, you now accept that this thing exists. Now we're going through the attributes of said thing.
On the contrary, I said I don't. If I said that, I retract that, and I regret my word choice because I may have misspoke. I do not
I'm
accept
gonna
that,
move
but
on.
rather
I'm gonna move on.
Well,
Okay.
thank you for having me on today, man. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Take care.
I gotta go too.
Yeah, bro.
God bless you,
God bless
Elijah.
you, bro.
Hey, take a break.
No, I'm about to. This is exactly what I'm talking about in regards to like there are people who just genuinely don't want to believe God regardless. Like no matter, hey, I don't so and exactly, Sola, dishonest. He came up here and he said, "Hey, I don't believe in God because I haven't been presented good evidence." Right? He says that a logical argument is going to be good evidence. Yeah, Alex O'Connor is somebody who I have a little bit of respect for. I think his critiques on the Bible is a little weak, but his atheistic arguments are cool. But I did watch a video on the argument for motion where like that's not the argument for motion. But it's like, okay, if I present to you a good argument, then if that's your reason and you get presented a good argument, now you have evidence that God exists. So now there's nothing stopping you. And you can hear when we run the argument for motion, or if I start running other arguments, you hear this place of panic in the voice when it's like, okay, this argument's getting to 4 or 5 premises. If I don't object to one of these, it sounds like it's going to conclude that God exists. Let me try to throw something against the wall, see what stick.
That's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He didn't even agree with the stuff that he was throwing against the wall. So.
Yeah. It's just, please, no, not God. And it's because it's like, yo, if God exists and he is what you think he is, like he is this being, then he deserves to be worshipped. And he deserves dedicating your life to him. People do not want to dedicate their life to people, like to God. No, like, and you've heard it today. People came up and be like, hey, bro, like I want to be selfish. I want to do what I want to do. If I believe that God exists, that stops me from doing what I want to do. So people be like, no, I don't want to believe in God. I want to continue doing what I want to do. And it's like, hey, fine. Yeah, that's all of us, bro. Like, it's every single one of us. We all feel that way, but there's things that's higher than you that is actually looking out for you. So when God is saying, hey, dedicate your life to me, and he is that which is good, he's asking you to do what is good, to follow the good, align yourself with that which is good. He's trying to get you to choose to be virtuous, right? To do what's actually edifying and helpful for you. And you say, no, I want to hurt myself pretty much, bro. It's like, man, just pray for them. Pray for them, pray for them, pray for them. It's very rare where you get an atheist where they're like, no, like you don't really have to run through the argument. I've had it a couple of times. You don't have to run through the argument 8 different times. It's like, oh, like that makes sense. I need to go look into that. It's very rare where you get people like that, but it's cool when you do. When you don't, hopefully that, you know, people in the comments are able to see. I'm gonna check to see if there's any questions that I missed. Let's see. It's idolatry of self goes back to the garden. Exactly. Yeah, bro, I've been live for 3 hours, bro. I'm sorry. Do you just have a quick question, or you want to have a full conversation? Because like it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And you try to be patient. I try to be patient. What's up?
How are you doing today, boss man?
I'm good.
So anyway, I'm not trying to eat your time, but I'm making it real quick. I just wanted to ask, if you if you study and you live through and learn all the lessons that Jesus is trying to teach you to be humble and selfless and taking care of people, but you just don't necessarily believe that he rose from the dead, will you go to heaven or hell? Just wondering.
If you don't believe that he rose from the dead,
Yeah, like you don't necessarily believe that he rose from dead. Like for someone who's like of a different spirituality, like across the world, who's also spiritual, doesn't necessarily believe that he rose from the dead.
well, he tells you to believe that. I don't know how you follow him and don't believe that. It doesn't make any
Well,
sense.
I'm not saying that like you're following of him, like you're like in terms of following the same lessons. Like for example, when like he's saying, there's a common saying, put God first and you second, right? I think that theme is talking about being humble and not being egotistical, right? Putting others before you, putting the universe before you, putting God before you, right? Everything before you. So I feel like if people are learning those lessons, right? Learning these lessons and common themes that he's trying to teach just in different ways, different perspectives, they just don't necessarily think he rose from the dead. Are those people condemned? Because, for example, there are people alive.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. But because there are people alive today, like indigenous people across the world that have learned these said lessons, but don't even know or necessarily even believe that he rose from death. So like, who's to say what happens to those people?
Yeah, so it's not a Christian's place to say who's going to go to heaven and who's going to go to hell.
I figured. I was about to say.
Yeah, that's not our place. We're not the judge. So, but for people who are like ignorant on the matter, like indigenous people who might have never had the gospel preached to them, they'll be judged according to what they know and to natural law. So, like being a good person and stuff like that. Like God's grace isn't going to be withheld from them because they were born in a place where the gospel wasn't preached. If you openly and willfully reject God, there's really no good works apart from him. Like what the scripture says is that your best righteousness is nothing but a filthy rag before him. So if you you think that you're doing good works apart from him, you're just wrong. They're not going to produce actual fruit.
Because like, yeah, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, because like in other cultures, for example, mine, like we still believe in a supreme being that governs overall, right? And even till today, that word became the translation for Jehovah. And what I was going to say to that is, for someone like me, I have an auntie who still practices some African indigenous beliefs, and like she said for me that she's performed miracles, but she doesn't necessarily believe, like she's not a Christian, right? But she's like a really good person, and she helps people out, and she lives a very selfless life. So like believing that he rose from the dead, like I just kind of feel like, wouldn't that kind of be like forcing people then? Because isn't that kind of like you have to have faith in that? Like that has to be like a you thing to believe that.
Yeah, so it's accepting the grace in which God has given. So this grace that God has given through Jesus Christ's incarnation and death and resurrection, right? Acknowledging that is accepting the gift in which he's bestowed upon you. So when you don't accept that, right, you're just rejecting the gift in which God has given creation, which is his incarnation, death, and resurrection. So this is by the means in which we're able to be in communion with him, is through his passion. And if you reject that for whatever reason it may be, like just out of willful rejection, then you're just rejecting that gift. So then when you're in the presence of God, you have chosen to reject God. You've rejected him and what he's done in order to procure these things for you that you need to see.
And he was definitely a real person that lived, because there are a lot of Roman historians and scholars that write about him and everything. And the reason why a lot of people believe these things is because like supposedly people saw these miracles come to fruition, like they saw it with their bare hands. So with other miracles from other various parts of the world, like who's to say like these miracles are different, right? Because these people have different understanding of what God is to them, right? So like, I kind of feel like
a miracle doesn't automatically mean that it's from God. Like
exactly.
I don't know.
Because like your interpretation of God, like what you believe God is, might be different for someone across the world what they believe God is, because there are different types of spiritualities and religions that all operate very differently, right? So again, I just kind of feel like if you're telling someone that is, again, who's living and learning through these like same lessons that Jesus is teaching, like they're coming to the exact same conclusion that Jesus is talking about,
They're
but they
not.
just don't. Yeah, but they just don't necessarily believe he rose from the dead because those testimonies only did indeed come from eyewitnesses, right?
That's the
But
whole thing. That's the whole thing. So Jesus is not just this good teacher that came to reveal some good teachings, but he constantly says over and over and over again that he came here to die. Like that if you believe in him, then you will have eternal life. If you do not believe in him, right? If you don't believe in his deity, his death and his resurrection, eternal life is not promised unto you. So you can think that you're doing whatever or following whatever teachings you think that you're following, but if you're just picking and choosing which of the teachings of Christ that you want to follow, then you're not a follower of him and eternal life is not promised unto you.
no, like not like you are a follower picking and choosing. You are like a normal person
That's never
that,
read.
yeah, a normal person that's never read, but like you have your own spiritual beliefs because you're from
Well,
a different.
God's gonna judge that person accordingly. So like
All right.
even if if you choose to be ignorant, you'll be judged accordingly. Like you had the chance to follow him and you chose not to. You chose not to learn. You chose not to seek. To the one who seeks, he finds. To the one who knocks, the door will be open unto him.
Again, like you said, because like the reason why, like you said, the reason why Christianity is true is because he was a real life person and he's a son of God, and he said he's going to die for our sins, and he did so. These things indeed do happen. But again, like I said, I'll give you a perfect example. Like for my indigenous spirituality, most people are a part of it and don't even know, just because like there is no, like, you don't necessarily have to believe like someone died and came back. For example, the recommendations are, sorry, not the recommendations, the requirements are, you have to respect earth and respect yourself. You have to respect others, obviously. You have to respect what taboos are. You got to respect how you treat people. Just don't be like a jerk, pretty much, right? And you gotta honor and understand that there are people that came before you, and there are people that always will come after you, right? So with that definition alone, that's paganism. I mean, I can leave whatever, but with that alone, a lot of people are already a part of that, right? So again, I feel like you're condemning people, saying that they're not condemning. Sorry, you're telling people unless they understand this and they accept this, they're not going to go to heaven. But there are people that are literally living these lessons. And again, for someone to believe someone rose from the dead again, like I feel like that's just kind of like an objective thing. Like you can't prove any of these spiritualities are real, right? Like I can't go to my indigenous homeland and tell people there.
Do you believe in multiple gods or just one?
No, I believe in God. I believe in God. I believe in one God. That's for sure. But I'm just
Does your auntie believe in one God,
stuck.
or does it?
No, I'm just kind of stuck because I'm in a spot right now because I grew up in a Christian household. I'm just like in a spot right now where I'm stuck, and I'm like, how are there people who are like myself? I'm friends with people who just aren't Christian, right? Like for example, I have a friend he's Hindu. I'm friends with all these other people. Like they're selfless and they live and learn these lessons that are taught in the Bible. But I asked him, like, do you think like Jesus is real? He's like, yeah, like Jesus is real. They said that he performed miracles. Do you think he rose from the dead? Not necessarily.
So here, think of it like this, right? So heaven is the experience of when you align your will with God, you accepted God's grace, and then when you die, like you're forever in that direction of where your will was aligned. So you're participating in God, right? And that's a delightful experience. Hell is when you decided that you wanted to go away from God. You don't want God's grace. You don't want God's goodness. And then
The
when you're
eternal
in the
separation from him.
no, not eternal separation. You are in the presence of him, but you've already aligned your will away from him. So you don't like being in his presence. So you create your own torture because you decided that you don't like God, but everything ends in God. He's the beginning and the end. So when you're in him and with him, you've chosen for you that you don't like this. Now, a way in which we accept this, right, is through accepting him who came and showed his love and died for us and accepting that grace. That is us aligning our wills with him. Now, those who align their wills with him will do the things like being charitable, being good, being respectful. Those are the people who will align their wills with him. They will do those things. There are going to be other people who do those things, but reject him. So when they are united unto him, it will still be a torturous experience for them because they still decided to reject him. Does that make
So it's
sense?
like you can live a good life, do all the good things Jesus said, but if you just don't personally believe he rose from the dead, you're gonna go to hell. But then it's like,
I would say that heaven is not promised unto you. I can't
yeah,
make
okay, that's
decisions.
fair. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
actually a more accurate, better. Yeah, that's actually very good. Heaven is not necessarily promised to said person. Then again, like, so then when I asked my friend, I was like, so then why don't you believe that he didn't rise from the dead? He's like, well, again, because we have to, like, you have to literally believe these eyewitnesses' testimonies. And again, when I went back home to my homeland and I was asking my own people that live there about their own testimonies of different miracles that they witnessed, I'm like, okay, these people have their own testimonies of a different indigenous spirituality. So it's like I just kind of feel like you really, like, it's all up to like someone's belief. And I just really feel like for someone who wants to be Christian, if you want to be Christian and you don't believe in God, like, you're not promised heaven if you are trying to be Christian, right? If you just don't believe.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who believes like in a different spirituality, like, that just wouldn't apply to you then.
No, it would still apply to you. That's like if I go to a land that I'm not from, and like say for instance they have laws against sweatpants, for example, and I go in there and I wear sweatpants, just because I'm not from there don't mean that I still won't be punished by their law. Like we saw that with like Brittany Griner when she went to
Well,
Russia.
I can use that exact same example with my spirituality. You can come to our land. I mean, like, if you kill someone, sorry, I know you can say on live, sorry, but if you like do a lot of crimes and you're a bad person till the day you die, well, then that's different. Like, but for us, we don't tell you, oh, like, you kind of have to accept this. Like, a lot of the things that are accepted into our spirituality are other concepts that are widely spread and accepted in
Yeah,
other.
that's fine. But I'm saying that if your God was like the one true God, right, then regardless as to what I'm doing, I'm going to have to interact with said God. I don't get to have a world in which your God, if it's the true God, doesn't exist.
Yeah,
So
you do. My spirituality, yes, you can.
yeah, that's because you guys don't believe in the one true God.
Well, that's our one true God, and our indigenous beliefs are like much older
Yeah,
than the Bible.
it's not our true God. It's either the true God or not.
Well, again, there are different interpretations.
Here,
different
what
perspectives of
spirituality?
God.
What sect? What religion are you?
So my parents are from Nigeria, and it's called Omenala. You can actually look it up, or not look it up. You can actually do research if you do have the time later.
How you spell it? Hello? When you go off screen, I can't hear you.
I'm gonna just type it. Give me a second. If I'm not mistaken, I might have misspelled it. Omenla.
Omenla.
Yeah.
Omenala.
Yeah, I was about to say that might be I might have misspelled that.
Okay,
And
so I mean, this just says from the Igbo people, and Odani is pantheistic and polytheistic faith, having a strong central deity as its head. I would just prove polytheism wrong. And
well, I don't necessarily believe my indigenous beliefs are real. Like, I take lessons and everything I take from that, but like I don't necessarily believe like our deities are necessarily real, because like when colonization came over, and especially when Christianity was introduced, we literally made the translation from Jehovah to the same word we use for it, because it was pretty much, it meant the exact same thing, like the overall God, the biggest God of them all, pretty much.
Yeah,
but I know you said that you don't have a lot of time, so I didn't want to like.
I appreciate you.
All right, bro. You have a good day, man.
All right, you too. 15. Alright, I'm finna go. God bless y'all in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I pray that all of you guys are well. You was in here the whole live.